Chapter 3087. She wanted to have the qualifications to stand behind this person. The secret battalion wanted to have the qualifications to stand behind this person. From today onwards, you will lead the secret battalion and rely on Tianguang ruins to infiltrate every industry in the cultivation continent. I want you to build a complete and detailed intelligence network and make the secret battalion the strongest spy organization in the entire cultivation continent. Ru Yin closed her eyes, allowing her scalding tears to fall, allowing her heart to violently beat in her chest. She raised her voice and loudly said, "Since the beginning of the mission, it has been 639 days. The Tianji Battalion has already completed their mission. We now request to return to the Nether Flame Army." On the northern slope, everyone from the secret pavilion, who had concealed their true appearances but wore the same uniform, knelt down in unison. The secret battalion requests to return to the Nether Flame Army. Under the cover of their fists was a flame symbol that slowly lit up. Feng Haidang was the third to kneel. Commander of the Longevity Battalion, Feng Haidang, pays respect to Miss. The Longevity Battalion has 3,360 people and 3,360 people present. We are willing to obey Mrs. orders. Feng Haidang had already combed her hair into a woman's bun. She no longer had the indifference and sadness in her eyes. She couldn't imagine what kind of fate she and Yin Haoyin would have if they didn't meet Mississippi. Therefore, even if she didn't have enough talent and ability, she would still desperately manage the Longevity Battalion. She wanted to be with the Longevity Battalion and follow Miss for a long time. It has been 639 days since we received the order, and the Longevity Battalion has completed its mission. We now request to return to the Nether Flame Army. On the western slope, all the cultivators from the Longevity Hall knelt down on one knee and placed their fists on their chest. They shouted in unison. The Longevity Battalion requests to return to the Nether Flame Army. Finally, it was Bai Chen. He held his sword in his left hand and slowly knelt down on one knee. He placed his right hand on his chest and placed it on his heart. Commander of the Great Void Battalion, Bai Chen, pays respect to Miss. The Great Void Battalion has 40,000 people and 40,000 people present. We are willing to obey Mrs. orders. A young man in white had flowing black hair. His features were picturesque, and his eyes were like black obsidian. However, they seemed to be dim and couldn't reflect the beauty of the mountains. The young man's voice was warm and clear, deep and pleasant to listen to, but it was always calm, empty, and lonely. However, at this moment, when he raised his head to look at the white-clothed, blood-soaked young lady, his eyes still stirring, his voice still trembling. Bai Chen, I hope that you can kill your enemy, survive, and become the leader of the Grand Void Battalion. From today onwards, you will lead the Grand Void Battalion and gather the idle forces of Min LV, Azure Cloud, and Azure Blue Realms to form a regular army. I want you to build the military fortress of Death Flame Valley with the existing soldiers of the Grand Void Camp as the core. It will also be the most important cornerstone of Death Flame. Ever since Lin Sitong's death, he had been like a walking corpse, drifting in the chaotic world. He no longer had any nostalgia for the world. It was this person's trust and entrustment that gave him the meaning to continue living. It was this person who had personally established the Nether Flame Army, allowing him to have a new home. Even if the thought of Lin Sitong still made his heart ache, he was still willing to step on the thorns to live. Because he had regrets in this life, but he hoped that his Miss and his friends would have no regrets in this life. Because he wanted to light up the Nether Flame with his own hands and crown her with thousands of sparks. It has been 639 days since we received the order, and the 40,000 people of the Grand Void Battalion have completed their mission. Now we request to return to the Nether Flame Army. Chapter 3088. On the southern slope, the most magnificent legion knelt down on one knee without any hesitation, bowing to the only faith they held fast to in their lives. Grand Void Battalion requests to return to the Nether Flame Army. Request to return to the Nether Flame Army. Return to the Nether Flame Army. Return to the Nether Flame Army. The thunderous voices resounded throughout the Demon Massacre Plaza and the entire Phoenix Sky mountain range. The mountain breeze blew through his blood-stained hair and wet eyes. Mayan takes a deep breath. After a long while, she uses her spiritual power to transmit her slightly hoarse and trembling voice. Request received. The Ink Camp, the Heavenly Secret Camp, the Longevity Camp, and the Grand Void Camp, they are all permitted to return. She opened her hand, and spiritual power surged. A special black and red flame slowly appeared in her palm. The night of 639 days ago, she told these people that they could not go to the purple cloud world with her. From now on, they could no longer call themselves members of the Nether Flame Army. She said, "This was the fire of the death flame. Let us use this as an agreement, as a sign, as a promise. No matter where Little Treasure and I are, as long as we see the symbol of the Nether Flame, we will know that everyone is working hard and that you are by our side. When the day comes when we spread the flames of the Nether Flame to every corner of the cultivation continent, the Nether Flame Army will reappear in the world." Today, the flames of the death flame finally ignited in her palm once again. On the hillside, the 80,000 Nether Flame Army soldiers released their fists from their chests and puffed out their chests proudly. On the front lapels of their clothes, a black and red flame symbol suddenly lit up, like a ball of flame quietly burning. From the day these people joined, they were told over and over again. They were not the MO mercenaries, the Divine Secret Battalion, the Longevity Hall, or the Great Void Valley. They only have one master, June Mayan. They only had one name, the Nether Flame Army. The flame in their chests, hidden in the shadows and invisible to others, was their soul, their unchanging faith. The entire mountain seemed to be covered by this black and red flame. 80,000 people knelt on one knee and shouted in unison. The Ink Camp of the Nether Flame Army greets the Miss. Nether Flame Army's Great Void Battalion greets the Young Mistress. Nether Flame Army's Secret Battalion greets Young Mistress. The Nether Flame Army's Longevity Camp greets Miss. They had once said that one day they would stand behind Miss with dignity and let everyone in the world know who the master of the Nether Flame Army was. They once said, "The hellfire will never be extinguished." There would come a day when it would set the three realms ablaze. And now they had finally done it. From today onwards, the flames of the Nether Flame will be reignited, and the name of the Nether Flame Army will resound throughout the world. Muyin hooks up her lips, revealing a brilliant smile. Tears fell from the corners of her eyes, but there was no sadness, no loneliness, only warmth that never faded from beginning to end. In this life, she was no longer a lonely and despairing beast who was besieged on all sides. She has her beloved Di Mingju and Xiaobao. There were fellow apprentice brothers and sisters who accompanied each other. She had an army that supported her without any regrets. And this group of family members who never left him. She had never been fighting alone. A low voice spat out from between her lips and teeth, as if she was telling them, and also as if she was telling herself. Nether Flame Army, welcome home. Readers who want to participate in the book reviews and comment section, punch in, kick the list, and subscribe activities. Remember to add the Book Friends group 190149989. Chapter 3089. No wonder I thought these four people looked familiar. When Starry School was attacked by the Tion family, wasn't it the Nether Flame Army who came to save us? I remember too. There weren't that many of them back then, but they all called themselves the Nether Flame Army and called her Miss June. Ha ha. One is bound to have good fortune after surviving a great disaster. Who would have thought that Starry School would be saved by the Nether Flame Army for the second time? Xiao Yinchuan and the rest turned around stupidly and looked at the Starry School students who were shouting excitedly. At this moment, whether it was the devastating Fall Army, Liangshan Army, or the Unfettered Army, they all felt like they were dreaming. What had just happened? A large group of cultivators landed. An army of 80,000 people suddenly surrendered to Chu Xinyan. Just as their hearts sank and they thought that they were going to die with their idols, a voice suddenly rang out. The 80,000 soldiers from 4 different forces all knelt to their god June. Wait, kneeling to god June and calling god June miss? Shit. So this Netherflame army, all 80,000 soldiers, are Miss June's subordinates. It's over. This time, I really feel that our Liangshan army's #1 supporter is going to be gone. Boo-hoo! What kind of deity do I worship? She can draw talismans, make pills, heal, set up formations, fight, and summon 80,000 celestial soldiers in times of danger. It's all worth it to be a member of the devastating Fall Army. It's really worth it. Mu Yin shouted. Netherflame Army, listen up. Yes. Ink camp surround the Iron Guard. Taishu camp attack the Northern Marquis Army. Tinji camp support from the side. Longevity camp enter the formation to rescue them and protect their safe retreat. Yes, miss. A tsunami of shouts rang out in unison. The 80,000 Netherflame army moved without any hesitation. Chu Xinyan and Jing Tianyi had yet to recover from their shock. Before they could give orders to the Northern Marquis Army and the Iron Guard, the 80,000 soldiers had already smashed their formation into pieces. By the time they reacted, Chu Xinyan's face was already so gloomy that it could drip water. He unwaveringly stares at Mayan. This is your trump card? Damn it. He should have known. June Mayan had been patiently sitting in front of the chaotic tower all this time, not resisting, not attacking. Was she really at the end of her rope? No. She was clearly waiting. When this 80,000-strong army was mobilized from all over the cultivation world. But why? How is that possible? He had operated in the Purple Cloud realm for so many years, yet he only had an army of 100,000. How old is this June Mayan? How could she control such a large force? Was this woman a human or a demon? Was it a demon or a god? Chu Xinyan gritted his teeth. Just with these low-level cultivators, the strongest of whom is only at the Golden Core stage? Do you really think you can defeat this Marquis's 100,000 demon-slaughtering army? Whether it was the Iron Armor Guards or the North-ranking Marquis army. At the very least, he was at the nascent soul stage. Under Chu Xinyan's command, the Iron Armor Guards and the North placating Marquis's army immediately began their counterattack. The situation was instantly reversed. The gap in numbers and cultivation wasn't something that the Netherflame army could make up for with just 2 years of rapid development. Chu Xinyan finally let out a long sigh of relief. June Mayan, do you see? No matter how much you struggle, it's just like hitting a rock with an egg. Chapter 3090. 1 second remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. Mu Yin smiles. Her peach blossom eyes slightly raise, gleaming with light. Since the start of the battle, this was the first time she had released such an evil aura, such an unbridled smile. His slender fingers pressed on the strings. His figure suddenly soared into the sky and floated in midair. Whether or not it's like throwing an egg against a rock, we'll only know after the fight. In an instant, his 10 fingers danced on the zither strings, leaving a snow-white afterimage. The majestic sound of the zither flowed out like a golden spear and armored horse. Graceful Feather, activated. Echo Recovery, activated. Cloud Skynet, activated. Countless Shun musician skills turn into specks of energy that fall on the battlefield. He might not have felt anything at first, but as time went on, he felt a chill run down his spine. The strength of the Netherflame army was getting stronger and stronger. They were clearly only at the Gold Core stage, but the spiritual power in their bodies seemed to be inexhaustible. On the other hand, when the zither music entered the ears of the Iron Armor Guards and the North-ranking Marquis, it was as if something was drilling into their dantian and meridians, making their spiritual power unable to circulate smoothly, and the movements of their limbs became more and more sluggish and heavy. Chu Xinyan felt as if all the blood in his body had rushed to his head. He had actually forgotten one thing. June Mayan is the best support musician in the whole continent. But even if he was an auxiliary musician, wasn't that too unbelievable? That was a battlefield where 180,000 soldiers were crossing swords. How did she manage to control the state of an army all by herself? Cleansing Pleasure Pavilion. Chu Xinyan suddenly thought of something. He abruptly turned his head to look at Jianlan. What are you still standing there for? Doesn't the Cleansing Joy Pavilion claim to be the #1 musician sect in the cultivation world? Don't tell me that Jun Mayan is the only one in control of the battle. Go! All the musicians in Mulu Pavilion attack together. This Ho doesn't believe that Jun Mayan really has an invincible golden body. At this time, Chu Xinyan no longer had the amiable expression he had when he was facing Yuan Sherlan. He has already been tortured to insanity by Mayan's endless methods, repeatedly turning defeat into victory. Yuan Sherlan bit her lips, her face revealing an embarrassed and angry expression. She had her pride. She wants to kill Mayan, but she also wants to defeat her fair and square. All the musicians of Mulu Pavilion suppressed Jun Mayan's assistance. This was a clear and thorough admission that she, Jianlan, was inferior to Jun Mayan. But in the end, Honglan gritted her teeth and shouted, all supporting musicians of Cleansing Joy Pavilion, follow me. A moment later, countless figures flew into the air. With Bailan in the lead, the 4 saintesses of Cleansing Joy Pavilion and all the deacons followed behind her in an arc. Each of them was holding a musical instrument in their hands. Bolan holds the ice and snow solitary in her hand. She has a complicated expression as she looks at the blood-stained girl in front of her. Jun Mayan, don't blame me. There shouldn't be a me in this world, and there should be another you. You can roam freely in the world, but why did you barge into the northern continent? You can receive the favor of any man in the world, but why does this person have to be young Master Yin Shao? So Jun Mayan, I'm sorry, but you must die. The solitude of ice and snow was slowly played. This was like a prelude, following which Yi Yun, Yi Shui, Yi Feng, and Yi Yu's performances immediately followed. Then, all the musicians of Mu Lu Pavilion joined in. In a split second, the soul-stirring sound of the ensemble resounded through the sky. Jing Tian saw that Chu Xinyan's expression was still gloomy. He couldn't help but smile confidently and say, Marquis, don't worry. This set of 8 notes repetition is the secret technique of my Mulu Pavilion. Once it is played, how difficult would it be to support 1,000 soldiers and 10,000 horses? Mobile users, please browse and read. Chapter 3091. 1 second to remember LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. And the battle situation was just as Jing Tianyi expected. The originally slow and clumsy Demon Slayer army seemed to have been injected with a cardiac stimulant and immediately launched a swift and violent counterattack. But for some reason, Chu Xinyan's heart felt uneasy. Is Jun Mayan really that easy to suppress? Even if it's one person against hundreds of assistant musicians. As if to confirm the conjecture in his heart. Seeing this scene in midair, the corner of the girl's mouth hooks up into a shallow smile. That smile is not a mocking smile, not a show of strength, but a genuine arrogance that disdains everything. Chu Xinyan's heart thumps. The next moment, he feels a chill that makes his scalp go numb. Then his throat seems to be choked by someone. His life and death are hanging in the palm of someone else's hand. Chu Xinyan stands stiffly in place. Suddenly, he seems to have thought of something and looks up. Along with him, Jing Tianyi also looks up. 4 domains. How is this possible? On the Xiojin continent, without a cultivator who has ascended to become an immortal, how could someone master 4 domains? Chu Xinyan is going crazy. The fear of this woman that has been hidden in the depths of his heart can no longer be contained, and it crazily surges up. At the foot of Mount Foam, the music of Mu Lu Pavilion's 1,000-person ensemble gradually fades away. It's replaced by the sound of the zither, like striking gold and striking stone, reverberating between heaven and earth, reverberating on the battlefield. Bang! Her face is deathly pale, and she shakily raises her blood-stained hands. The string of the solitary snow and ice breaks. The music behind her becomes chaotic and harsh in a split second. Lost. Haha, this time, she is truly and thoroughly lost. No, in fact, ever since she met Jun Mayan, she has never won. utterly defeated, and even lost her nature. Seeing a blur in front of her, she could no longer control herself. She spits out a mouthful of blood and faints. Kill. Kill her. Listen to this hoe's order. Kill Junmayan at all costs. Otherwise, don't blame this hoe for letting you die under the soul-crushing 100 insects. At this time, Chu Xinyan has completely thrown caution to the wind. What benefits after the war? He doesn't want to care about the losses in the fight. He only wants Mayan's life. This woman was too scary. If he couldn't kill her now, the cultivators on the Demon Massacre Square looked at each other. In the end, they still flew forward. There were more than 20 Tribulation Transcendence cultivators, and some of them were even high-level cultivators. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that such a lineup was unparalleled in the cultivation world. No matter how strong Junmayan is, it's impossible for her to be a match for so many of them. That's right. They didn't need to scare themselves. Not only did Junmayan have to assist them, she also had to defend the Chaotic Tower, and she also had to fight against them. No matter how monstrous she was, she still had to die. However, in such a desperate situation, the girl in front of him chuckled. Junmayan, you're already at the end of the road. What are you still laughing about? Mu Yin slowly shakes her head. Of course I'm laughing at you guys, forever unable to grasp the right opportunity. Now, the ones who are at the end of their rope are you. What nonsense are you talking about? You want to kill the unfettered 7 devils? Do you really think I'm the only one in the Xiaoyao sect? The last trembling syllable had not been uttered. Suddenly, a glaring light resounds from the center of the Demon Massacre Square. The entire Feng Tian mountain range seems to be shaking. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zai. Chapter 3092. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Countless energies revolve around the Chaotic Tower, forming a huge vortex. Immediately after, 6 figures fly out and stand beside Mayan. Seeing the 7 people standing side by side, everyone feels their vision go dark, almost fainting. The hands holding the magic treasures can't help but tremble violently. Yin Ruhan, Qin Jiu, Chu Moli, Lung Yuma, Ling Yusheng, Luo Yu. They're awake. Didn't they want to go into seclusion for a day and a night? Why do they come out now? And the cultivation of these 6 people, peak of leaving body realm. In just one day, they've already broken through to the peak of leaving body realm. Mayan chuckles. Did you really think that I was sitting in front of the Chaotic Tower and getting beaten up just to protect the people in the Chaotic Tower? She's using her own soul origin to nourish the 6 brothers. This shortens the time it takes for them to absorb the energy in their bodies by 2 times. From the beginning, Mayan knew that with her strength alone, no matter how strong she was, it would be impossible to fight against dozens of tribulation cultivators, a vast army of thousands of men and horses. From the beginning, she's been waiting, enduring, waiting for the Nether Flame army to assemble. The second-class Carefree 6 sons have finished their seclusion. The third-class Chu Moli's arrangements have come into effect. Now, the first 2 turning points that she's been waiting for have finally arrived. And the situation will also completely tilt towards their side. The 6 people don't look at Chu Xinyan and the others. Instead, they look at their little junior sister with heartache. Even though the young girl is currently in high spirits and full of smiles, just looking at the white clothes that have long been soaked in blood, one can only imagine what kind of danger and fierce battle she went through alone just now. And at such a time, they couldn't accompany her by her side and fight together with her. Little junior sister, Mayan bursts into laughter, interrupting their words. No need to say mushy words. I'm risking my life to help my senior brothers break through, not so that you can stir up emotions. Or is it that everyone's breakthrough this time wasn't good, so you want to say a few words to muddle through? To win this victory, to make these dregs pay the price, it's not enough to rely on me alone. The 6 people stare blankly at first, then they can't help but laugh. Their breakthrough this time wasn't good? How could this be? The people of the Xiao Yao sect always did things their own way and acted recklessly. At this moment, he was even more confident and arrogant than usual. Luo Yu giggled and said, "Aren't these people clamoring to kill the unfettered seven devils? Let's show them just how earth-shattering the alliance of the seven devils is." The seven of them lined up and looked at Chu Xinyan and the others. Sharp killing intent was released silently. The tribulation transcending cultivators, whose cultivation bases were far higher than theirs, couldn't help but shiver in unison. Yun Ruhan said coldly, "Are you having fun bullying the Carefree Sect's junior sister?" "Bully Mayan." Everyone present was about to cry. Who the fuck was the bully here? June Mayan alone is about to overturn their entire demon-slaying alliance. All right. Lung Yuma unsheathed her red lotus soul-stealing blade, her entire body surging with killing intent. Why are you wasting words with them? Just kill them all. With just the seven of you? One tribulation transcendence and 6 peak nascent soul cultivators? The Xiao Yao sect is too arrogant. The strings of his zither were plucked at a moderate pace. Mu Yin raises her head, and her gaze sweeps over everyone present. To deal with you motley crew, 7 people is more than enough. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit ZaiNet. Chapter 3093. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. As the words fall, the battle song rises. Big Dipper activates. 7 silver threads fly out from the Tian Mo Chin, connecting to each person of the Xiao Yao sect. With the 7 stars as the base, using musical notes to construct a spell formation, connecting every companion on the battlefield. Mayan is the heart of the formation, and every other point is the eye of the formation, complementing each other and forming a perfect combination, infinitely expanding the strength of the original 7 people. Mayan's hands, strumming the strings, are so fast that they almost leave after images. Yun Ruhan and the other 5 also move in an instant. 1 passing tribulation, 6 peak Yuanian cultivators. What kind of concept is it against more than 10 passing tribulation cultivators? If it was in the past, it would be no exaggeration to say that it's like an egg hitting a stone, an ant trying to shake a tree. Logically speaking, the Xiao Yao 7 should also be killed without any suspense. However, at this moment, all the people in the demon-slaying square who are looking up at this battle believe from the bottom of their hearts. The Xiao Yao 7 will win. Jun Mayan will win, because they are already an invincible combination in this Xiojin continent. And Jun Mayan is truly invincible, an unshakable king. Xiao Yao. Who else but me can do it? Xiao Yao. Dominate the world. It's not just who is the first to shout, but like a spark, it sets the entire Feng Tian mountain range ablaze. The battle continues for a very, very long time, from the scorching sun in the sky until the sun sets in the west. In the square, the battle between the Netherflame army and the demon-slaying army has already ended. With the help of Jun Mayan's music, the Netherflame army has won an overwhelming victory. Yes, in the process of fighting alongside the Xiao Yao 6, Mayan's assistance to the Netherflame army has never stopped. Heavy Phantom allows her to bring out her Shun musician talents to the extreme. It also completely reverses the situation that should have been hopeless. And those who are watching this battle, whether it's Mayan's side or those who have already defected to North Placating Marquis, none of them have left. That was because everyone knew that they were witnessing a great battle of epic proportions. What they want to witness is the birth of the strongest king that has never been seen before. No, I don't believe it. Chu Xinyan's hair is disheveled and his eyes are red as he glares at Jun Mayan. He glares at the man who defeated him among the Xiao Yao 7 sons. The Chu Moli who is sitting in a wheelchair and looks like he could be blown away by the wind. At this time, Chu Xinyan was like an old man with 1 foot in the grave. His voice was hoarse, and his face was full of wrinkles. He no longer had the vigor he had before. When the 80,000 Netherflame army appeared, he knew that he would be defeated. However, He couldn't understand how he had lost to Chumoli. Facing this crippled youth, he grabbed him by the throat, thinking that he would be able to devour all of the vitality in his body. However, the young man who had his lifeline suppressed only smiled shyly. Choo-choo, dragon. Chu as he is, the youth and the one. Chu one. Chu, Chu-woo, Chu spirit. Finally, Yao, as Chu-ji Chu as he cut off his arm. Yin Shao Chun Shun. Demon. Chu. Chu-chu. But the appearance that he has spent 300 years to maintain, the cultivation that he has accumulated, is completely destroyed at this moment. Amidst the heart-wrenching pain, he hears Chu Moli's lukewarm voice in his ear. I don't know where you learned a little bit of the curse, but using it on me, Chu Moli didn't finish his words. But Chu Xinyan sees the ridicule and disdain in the youth's eyes. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please come to Zii. Chapter 3094. Remember LoveNet to provide you with exciting reading. Jun Mayan, Chu Moli. Chu Xinyan looked around blankly. She saw that the 7 unfettered men's tribulation transcendence cultivators were either dead or injured. Jing Qianni's Dantian was pierced by Yun Ruhan's sword. Miao Yu's head was cut off by Lung Yuma. Xiao Zun was helpless under Ling Yuxing's absolute space domain. In the end, he was blinded by the demon-absorbing needles and fled in panic. As for Xue Zhaoguang, Su Qiankuan, and the other cultivators of the Xiao Yao sect, they were crushed from the beginning. What kind of monsters were in the Xiao Yao sect? How could such a monster appear in the Xiozhen continent? Why did he want to hinder his ambition? Why? Why do you all want to stop me? Since you've shattered my dream, then let's all die together. I want all of you to be buried with me. Ha ha! Chu Xinyan let out hysterical laughter. His entire person seemed to have gone insane. His divine sense was already surging crazily, controlling the Sumeru Ring magic treasure, 100 disaster city below. 100 venomous insects. He wanted to use the 100 venomous insects to kill everyone, even all the creatures on the road of Xiozhen cultivation. Since he, Chu Xinyan, would not have a good death, he would let everyone in the world be buried with him. Ha ha! Cry wail despair. None of you can escape. However, very quickly, Chu Xinyan's ferocious madness froze on his face. Because it was quiet down below. There was no movement at all. Where were the 100 venomous insects? Where were the miserable whales? On the contrary, the little bugs that were originally attached to Lan Etienne's hands had disappeared without a trace. What's going on? How could this be? Where are my 100 venomous insects? Why are there no more? Why are there no more? Chu Xinyan had completely gone crazy. He used his hoarse voice to shout over and over again. He rushed into the demon's slaying hall and used his bloody hands to dig up the bricks to search. He even used his head to hit the pillars and the broken divine punishment platform. He wanted to find his 100 venomous insects, but there was nothing. Nothing. Almost at the same time. Suddenly, someone in the cleansing Lu Pavilion screamed, "My cultivation base! Why did my cultivation base regress? Me too. How can I be at the stage of fasting? I'm a nascent soul cultivator. I'm a nascent soul. Who's trying to harm us? Jun Mayan. Yes, it must be Jun Mayan who harmed us. That demoness took away our cultivation." Yuan Shirlan awoke from a tearing pain in her dantian, and the first thing she saw was the shocked and despairing screams of everyone in cleansing Le Pavilion. Soon after, she was shocked to find that her cultivation was no longer at the tribulation stage, but at the astral projection stage. How did she become a level 1 astral projection? Suddenly, as if she had thought of something, she took out the Saint Stone from her sleeve with a trembling hand. The stone, which had originally been emitting a reddish-brown glow, was now completely devoid of any luster. With just a gentle pinch of her hand, the stone was crushed into powder and scattered down from her fingers. At this moment, she suddenly understood. It wasn't that someone had taken away their cultivation, but rather, it was that the abilities bestowed upon them by the Holy Stone had disappeared. Even the Holy Stone had shed all of its deceitful aura, turning into powder and disappearing without a trace. The temporary strength obtained by relying on external objects is not only false but also vulnerable. One day, it will be returned tenfold or 100-fold. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the Self-Love website. Chapter 3095. 1 Second to Remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. She suddenly remembers Mayan's words in her mind. Hong Lan lets out a low laugh, bitter and sorrowful, but inexplicably with a bit of relief. She raises her head to look at the exceptionally beautiful girl, wanting to ask her, "Did you take away the power of the holy stone?" But when the words are on the tip of her tongue, she feels that everything is superfluous. "Don't cry," Hong Lan sternly shouts to stop the panic crying of the people of Mulu Pavilion. "If you lose your cultivation, you can cultivate it back. If you continue to make a fuss, do you want to end up like Head Jing and Yi Yin?" The crying slowly stopped. Everyone looked at Yuan Shirlan in panic. Hong Lan puts away the broken string of the solitary snow and says in a low voice, "As long as we are alive, Mulu Pavilion will exist. Nothing is a big deal. It's just starting from scratch. Iron Armor Guards, Deacon of Mulu Pavilion, listen up, we are returning to the northern continent." Saying that, she doesn't wait for the crowd to react and has already soared to the sky. The people of Mulu Pavilion stare blankly for a moment, then fearfully look at the Xiao Yao 7 sons, and they also leave. From beginning to end, Hong Lan doesn't look back. But Mayan hears a soft, faintly discernible voice in her ears. "Thank you, and I'm sorry." Looking at the departing backs of Mulu Pavilion and the Iron Armor Guards, Mayan smiles and doesn't stop them. All the cultivators of the northern continent have high cultivation bases. But in fact, all of this is based on the illusion of the Nightmare Stone. Once the effect of the Nightmare Stone disappears, their power will also be like a mirage, vanishing like bubbles. Now, whether it's Mulu Pavilion or the Horton tribe, they are no longer a threat. As for the north-ranking Marquis army, after Chu Xinyan was thoroughly defeated by Chu Moli, these originally unstoppable demon soldiers also seem to be drained of all their strength. They softly fall down and eventually die. But in fact, their collapse has nothing to do with Chu Xinyan. The power of the Nightmare Stone has been drained away. The power of the north-ranking Marquis army has also been drained in an instant. This is the third step of Chu Moli's plan. Drastic measures. Mayan already knew that the last method arranged by the abnormal third brother would not be simple. But she didn't expect him to be so powerful. This was truly removing the firewood from the bottom of the cauldron, eliminating all future troubles. The northern land of the Purple Cloud Realm was no longer a threat. The North Dingho residence was completely finished. Chu Xinyan was still laughing crazily, roaring, trying in vain to find his final trump card, 100 venomous insects, in by Disaster City. However, his lifespan was draining faster and faster. Eventually, with just a light collision, the bones in his arms and legs would break. Teeth mixed with blood fell off one by one. His turbid eyes could no longer see anything. When he opened his mouth, what came out was no longer arrogant words, but a muffled old voice that was almost inaudible. The entire square was deathly silent. Only Chu Xinyan's cries and laughter could be heard. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but sigh. No one had expected that the grand devil-slaying conference would end in such a laughable manner. No one would have thought that Chu Xinyan, this ambitious and ruthless person, would end up in such a tragic and laughable state. Muyan stood at Chu Moli's side. She suddenly said in a low voice, "Third senior brother, I'm really curious. What method did you use to make Chu Xinyan's 100 goo poison soul and demon weapon, as well as Mulu Pavilion's Nightmare Stone lose effect at the same time?" Chapter 3096. 1 second remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. Chu Moli curled his fingers and lightly tapped on the armrest of his wheelchair. Suddenly, his right hand reached down and grabbed a piece of paper. Muyin glanced at it and discovered that it was actually the 100 ghosts flying to the moon, a painting that Chu Moli had previously drawn. It was just that the originally complete and clear painting had now become mottled, and there were obvious burn marks at the edges and center. Mayan exclaims in surprise, "How did this painting become like this?" She suddenly thought of something. Did this painting devour the power of the nightmare stone and the 100 goo soul-sucking insects? Chumoli didn't say anything. Instead, he stared blankly at the painting in his hand. His originally delicate and weak face became increasingly sickly, desolate, gloomy, and deathly pale. It was as if he was about to fuse with the painting. Third senior brother? Chumoli suddenly snapped out his daze. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. He pinched the painting with 2 fingers, and a ball of flame suddenly sprang out of his fingertips, instantly burning the already tattered 100 ghosts flying to the moon painting. Muyin is somewhat dumbfounded. Chumoli raises his head and meets Mayan's eyes. The corners of his lips slowly curve up, revealing a gentle smile. "You want to know?" Mayan nods. Chumoli lowered his eyes and said unhurriedly, "Unfortunately, this is a secret that no one could tell. Muyin, third senior brother, you were just a freak in the past. Had they all become childish perverts now? Third senior brother, sixth senior sister, what secret are you discussing?" Luo, you came over curiously. I want to hear it too. Chumoli cast a sidelong glance at him and was just about to speak. Lan Yiqian, Su Mingwei, and the others came forward at this moment. Their faces were full of guilt and awe. In front of these 7 youths who were only old enough to be their grandchildren, they were too ashamed to say a word. When the 7 unfettered disciples were besieged on all sides, they chose to watch with folded arms for the sake of the safety of their clans and loved ones. Now, he was saved because of the unfettered 7. For a moment, all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart, but he was too ashamed to face anyone. As for those independent cultivators and small sects and clans that came to join in the fun, they had long since fled dejectedly. Although they had escaped, many things had been deeply engraved in their minds. From then on, he became a legend that could never be erased. Su Zi lowered his head and cried, "Little sister, I'm really useless." I didn't help at all. Suzy didn't even get to say the last word. It was at this moment that the change occurred. Muyan's reaction is extremely fast. Before the crowd could react, she had already pushed Luo Yu and Su Zi out of the room. In the blink of an eye, the 7 Absolutes' sword flashed in his hand, and he hastily blocked the attack with a backhand. Boom! A deafening bang broke the peace and tranquility at the foot of Mount Feng Tianshan that had been welcomed with great difficulty. Muyan's entire body flew backward for a good 300 meters before she managed to stabilize her figure in front of a mountain wall. A sword flickering with a cold light stops in front of Mayan, buzzing and trembling twice. In the end, it turned around and returned to a pair of slender, cold hands. Many people gasped when they saw the young man holding the long sword. Young Master Jiueming. It's young Master Suicide, Ning Su. Young Master Ning, please have mercy. Lan Yiqian and the others were originally planning to leave, but when they saw this scene, they hurriedly flew forward and stood between Ning Su and Muyan. The unfettered 7 sons are not evil demons. This is all part of North Placating Marquis and Jing Tianyi's scheme. Mobile users, please browse and read. Chapter 3097. Remember love net in 1 second, providing you with wonderful reading. Young Master Ning, please distinguish right from wrong. Don't listen to the words of evil people and wrongly accuse good people. Today, Ning Su was wearing a black cloak and a bamboo hat. His appearance was the same as when they first met in Cloud Piercing City. However, at this moment, everything had already changed. Ning Su's gaze was fixed on Muyan. He didn't even look at Lan Yiqian and the others. He said coldly, "This is between me and Muyan. If you don't want to die, scram now." Su Mingyue said angrily, "If not for Miss June's help, we would have died under Chu Xinyan's plot. You don't kill the real evil demon, but insist on holding on to Miss Juning Su. You're really a disgrace to your reputation as a demon slayer." That's right. Miss June is not an evil demon, but a hero who saved the Xiojin continent. What right do you have to kill her? If Chu Xinyan's plot really succeeded, have you thought about what kind of suffering the entire Xiojin continent would have fallen into? When the real evil demon was wreaking havoc, you didn't kill her. Now that everything has been settled, you're here to profit from the burning house. Ha, young master suicide. You're really a righteous swordsman who takes the lives of good people. Ning Su pointed his sword at Mu Yen. He turned a deaf ear to these people's words. Jun Mu Yen, whether you're demons or not, you know best. I've given you enough time to settle these mundane matters. If these people don't scram and interfere with our battle, don't blame my sword for being merciless. Su Zi said angrily. How can you be so stubborn? So what if the Xiao Yao 7 are demonic cultivators? As long as you're doing something righteous, as long as you can save the world, even if you're a demon cultivator or a ghost cultivator, you're still 100 times better than those hypocritical and selfish cultivators. You said that the demons should be killed, but I think that people like you who vent their hatred on innocent people are the most disgusting. Z, don't say any more. Step down. Little sister, Mu Yen said in a low voice. Netherflame Army, listen to my orders. Protect the cultivators in Fengtian Mountain Range and leave. No one is allowed to stay here. Miss, Great God June, we won't leave. There's so many of us. Why should we be afraid of young master suicide? Yeah, let's each spit a mouthful of saliva to drown her. Mu Yen said coldly. Netherflame Army, did you hear my orders clearly? Yin Haotian and the other three gritted their teeth. In the end, they bent their knees and bowed. Understood. Even if they were unwilling, even if they were anxious and worried, with the 80,000-strong Netherflame Army in front of them, they had no choice but to leave with the spaceship, no matter how unwilling they were. In next to no time, the bustling and clamorous foot of the Heavenly Phoenix mountain range became empty, and all that remained were corpses scattered all over the ground. Mu Yen looked at the 6 carefree sons beside her. You guys should leave as well. This war belongs to me and Ning Su. When the two of them first met in Cloudpiercer City, they felt like old friends at first sight. Who would have thought that things would end up like this? But no matter what, the two of them needed a fight to the death to settle it. The corners of Chu Moli's lips curled up. He smiled faintly and said, Don't worry, we don't want to participate either. If we stay here, we might be able to collect your corpse. Get lost. Third senior brother, are you courting death? You actually dared to curse 6th senior sister. Heavens as the witness. The cripple's words cannot be trusted. The last words carry no harm. The last words carry no harm. Mu Yen looked at her senior and junior brothers who were bickering and laughing. She smiled and turned to walk towards Ning Su. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 3098. 1 Second to Remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. The sound of the zither slowly resounds. Mayin's figure instantly splits into two. The Shin musician skill, Heavy Phantom, activates. The rank 4-star domain is unleashed without reservation. One of the two Mayin stays where she is, plucking the strings. The other holds the 7 absolute sword, slowly walking towards Ning Su. After this battle, the Xiojin continent will no longer be able to confine her, Jun Mayin. She can finally shatter the void and go to a wider world. She can finally reunite with Xiao Bao and Di Mingju. There is no one in this world that can stop her from moving forward. If God blocks, kill God. If Buddha blocks, kill Buddha. Ning Su holds the demon, slaying sword upside down, staring blankly at the girl walking towards him. The bright moonlight falls on her face, illuminating her peerlessly beautiful facial features. That pair of peach blossom eyes that are similar to his own, exactly the same as Ning Yanshin's under the dark starlight, lacks the coldness and indifference in his memory, but has a hint of disdain for the whole world. Ning Su's mind flashes through one scene after another. There's the joy of following Ning Yanshin a long, long time ago. There's also his first encounter with Mayin in Cloud City, and their reunion at Solar Sea. Everything suddenly seems like a dream, warm and beautiful. But a dream is just a dream. After waking up, all that's left is a bone-chilling cold and the resentment of being abandoned again and again. Ning Su suddenly chuckles, his expression indescribably desolate and twisted. In the end, he still restrains all his emotions and looks at the girl in front of him with an expressionless face. I know that you have broken through the crossing tribulation stage, but do you know why my cultivation is now? He pointed at the corpses on the square, and a mocking expression appeared on his face. In my eyes, this motley crew doesn't even have the qualifications to make me take action. As long as I wanna, I can easily take their lives at any time, anywhere, and as easy as flipping my palm. Jun Mayan, do you really think that by defeating them, you could defeat me? Mayan coldly says, Ning Su, when did you become so talkative? If you want to fight, then let's fight. Ning Su let out a low laugh. 5 fingers release the inverted demon-slaying sword. The demon-slaying sword hummed and flew into his palm. On the cultivation land, I've killed 3,467 demons, but I've never used the true power of the demon-slaying sword. Jun Mayan, this time, I will completely remove the seal on the demon-slaying sword and cut off your head with my own hands. As soon as he finished speaking, a glaring ray of blood-red light exploded from the demon-slaying sword. The powerful energy swirled, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth also surged violently, like raging waves in a hurricane. The 6 disciples of the Xiao Yao sect, who had been watching from the side, suddenly changed their expressions. Ning Su's strength had already reached such a level. Could Junior Sister really win? Xiaoxin Continent, above the hidden abyss. Seeing Di Ming Ju descending from the sky, Xiao Bao immediately breaks free from Min Wei's embrace and throws himself into his arms. Father! Xiao Bao grabs Di Ming Ju's lapel, raising his head to look at him nervously. Daddy, are you all right? Di Ming Ju strokes his head. Daddy is fine. Xiao Bao looks at Jun Shitian, who has descended almost at the same time as Di Ming Ju. Black-clothed uncle, are you all right? Jun Shitian coldly glances at him. I'm fine. You only have your father in your eyes. Why do you still care about me? Demon Lord. Min Wei and Tian he hurriedly greet him, looking at the slowly disappearing whirlpool in the sky. Their faces reveal an excited expression. Jun Shitian waved his hand and said, Let's go back to Demon Abyss. Mobile users, please browse and read. Chapter 30-99. We're going back so soon. Min Wei was reluctant to leave. Aren't we going to kidnap the young master back to the demonic abyss to play? Otherwise, you can bring the young master around. Tian he looked at Min Wei with disdain. Do you still remember that you are an elder of the demon domain? You're captivated by a baby? The key point is that the baby is Di Ming Ju's son. How could the people of the demon region be so spineless? However, when he thought of Min Wei's gigantic hammer, Tianhe swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Jun Shitian coldly glanced at Min Wei, causing Min Wei to instantly shut up. In the end, he even greeted Xiao Bao pitifully. Little Gongzi, what's so fun about the polar domain, ah? Our demon territory is 100 times more interesting than that. When are you free to come over and play? Remember to blow the demon bone whistle that Uncle Min Wei gave you. As long as you blow it, Uncle Min Wei will definitely come and pick you up immediately. Everyone from the polar domain, your demon domain is 100 times more interesting than the polar domain. Would you demons die if you didn't brag? This wouldn't do. Once they returned to the polar domain, they would definitely keep a close eye on the little lord. They absolutely couldn't let him leave, even by a single step. What if someone snatched it away? Everyone was just about to angrily accuse Di Ming Ju of the shamelessness of the demon race. But Di Ming Ju has already picked up Xiao Bao, turning around to leave. Daddy? Di Ming Ju looks down at him and says in a low voice, Do you want to see Nyangqin? Xiao Bao's big eyes, which were almost exactly the same as his, immediately lit up. Her long eyelashes gently blinked twice. Sparkling and translucent tears rolled down her cheeks. Xiao Bao hurriedly wiped it off and nodded heavily. Yes, Even in his dreams, he wanted to quickly see his mother. He wanted to know if his mother was well, if she was injured, and if she had been bullied. The light in Di Mingju's eyes becomes penetratingly gentle in a split second, his voice hoarse and lingering. Father also wants to. From a moment the enchantment changed and a nightmare ghost started wreaking havoc. He has been madly wanting to see his Mu Yen. At this point, he couldn't bear it any longer. However, just as Di Mingju is about to carry Xiao Bao away, suddenly a shout stopped him from moving. Monarch! Yu Yanran slowly walks forward, her beautiful eyes fixated on Di Mingju and Xiao Bao. The resentment and bitterness in her heart caused her originally pale face to flush red. Even the rims of his eyes started to tear up. But Yu Yanran was the island lord of Linglong Island after all. She only lost her composure for an instant, and she managed to control it well. Emperor, did you hear the spirit bell in the kamikaze sect's burial ground? Hearing Yu Yanran's words, everyone who was celebrating the restoration of the sky pillar was shocked. For a moment, it was as if someone had stuck an immobilizing talisman on them. All of a sudden, everyone stopped talking and turned to look at him. Di Mingju's brows furrowed tightly. His sharp gaze looked at Yu Yanran, and within it was a mixture of scrutiny, disgust, and vigilance. Yu Yanran's body stiffened. At this moment, she felt as if she had been completely seen through by the man in front of her. All of the schemes behind the scenes were all exposed. Extreme embarrassment and fear welled up, almost making her collapse. But at this moment, Jing Yuan's voice cuts in. Ba, this humble Taoist is also brooding over this. The little monk, who had already changed into a golden-red Kasaya, slowly walks forward. He's called a little monk, but that's only in reference to his appearance. Chapter 3100. Handsome, delicate, with a bit of a natural baby face. But everyone knows that this young-looking monk is a top expert at the immortal venerable level. The Debiai temple that he belonged to was the Buddhist holy land that had stood for the longest time in the Xiaoxin continent and was also the most respected one. Dijun, ever since the remains of the Shun musicians were sealed in the burial ground, the ghost bell has never rung once in 1,000 years. But now, in less than 3 years, the ghost bell has rung 3 times in succession. The first is meridians, the second is bone molding, and the third is tribulation breaking. 3 rings of the bell means that the Shun musician remnant's immortal bone has been formed, and he is about to break through the limits of a cultivator, cross the tribulation, and ascend. Jing Yuan's words cause a sudden uproar among the cultivators present. Are you kidding me? In less than 2 years, he went from spiritual vein formation to spiritual body perfection, and triggered the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Is this a cultivation speed that a human can have? But if this person is a remnant of the Shun musicians, then this kind of progress is not unusual. Could it be that in that war, the Shun music sect really didn't die out? Are they going to make a comeback? Jing Yuan sighs softly, his expression becoming more and more dignified. And the most important point, the ghost bell rung 3 times means that the Shun musician has at least advanced to the 7th rank. If you have read the history of the Shun music sect, you should know what it means to be a 7th rank Shun musician. Hearing this, many people's expressions become more and more dignified, even faintly carrying a trace of unconcealable fear. But there are also people who disagree. Even if it really is a remnant of the Shun musicians, there is no need to be so serious, right? In the past, the Shun music sect was so prosperous, running amok in the 3 realms, but in the end it was not destroyed by us. Yes, even if the Shun musician really left behind an inheritance, at most it would be 1 person. Even if he really broke the tribulation and ascended, at best he would be a top false immortal or a golden immortal. Any one of us here can easily crush him. Huang Shouchuan snorts, raising his voice. You are wrong. The Shun musicians are cunning and powerful. They are definitely not as simple as you think. His eyes sweep over everyone present. Do you know what it means to be a 7th rank Shun musician? Not waiting for anyone to answer, Huang Shouchuan has already continued. A seventh-stage Shin musician can already assist thousands of soldiers and horses at the same time, controlling the overall situation of the battlefield. She can use the sound of the zither to bewitch people's hearts, making low-level cultivators or immortals unswervingly loyal to her. She can also gather all the knowledge under the heavens, trampling all the dignity and 10,000 years of inheritance of the noble families and sects under her feet. What kind of joke was this? But how can a single person do this? Otherwise, why do you think a mere sect and a 100-mile sound network could turn the entire Shioshin continent upside down 1,000 years ago? The collapse of the sky pillar this time and a nightmare ghosts wreaking havoc can already be considered a monstrous calamity, but compared to that great battle 1,000 years ago, it can only be considered a small calamity. Those Shin musicians can even control haunted ghosts. Don't you think it's scary? Yu Yinran's slightly sorrowful voice slowly rises. My parents died at the hands of the Shin musicians. In the war 1,000 years ago, blood flowed like a river on Linglong Island, and countless people died. The blood feud of my parents, Yinran does not dare to forget in this life. Such a tragedy, I do not want to see it happen again in the Shioshin continent. A beauty's pair blossom in the rain, sad tears, always makes people feel distressed. Chapter 3101. What's more, Yu Yinran is talking about her own tragic life. Many of the cultivators present show expressions of sympathy and pity. Even more people offer words of comfort. I'll master you, rest assured. The disaster of the Shun musicians 1,000 years ago was because we were unprepared, giving them the opportunity to grow stronger day by day. In the end, it led to a catastrophe. But this time, we were already prepared. Even if the Shun musicians have more tricks up their sleeves, they won't be able to escape our palms. Yu Yinran wipes away the tears on her face and shows a strong smile. Yinran called out to Dijun to ask what Dijun's thoughts are on how to prevent the Shun musicians from wreaking havoc on the world. After all, Dijun is the only immortal emperor in the entire Shioshin continent, and also our backbone. After saying this, she stares at Di Mingju, waiting for his answer. Xiao Bao's hand tightens on Di Mingju's lapel. He may be a child, but his IQ doesn't lose out to that of an adult. Previously in the Tian and Mo Qin space, he already knew that Nyang Qin was the successor of the Shun musicians. Big Brother Qi Huang, who is in the space, can't appear in front of people. Once discovered, it could lead to a fatal disaster for their entire family. Therefore, Xiao Bao had always kept this a secret, not even telling his father about it. But now, these people want to kill the Shun musicians. Isn't that the same as killing Nyang Qin? Xiao Bao looks nervously at Di Mingju. Will Dad listen to them and go kill the Shin musicians? Will he tell Dad that Nyang Qin is the successor of the Shin musicians? Everyone's eyes fall on Di Mingju, full of worship and awe, waiting for his arrogant and domineering answer. However, Di Mingju rubs Xiao Bao's head comfortingly and says slowly, "No thoughts. This matter has nothing to do with the polar domain." Saying this, he doesn't even look at Yu Yinran, whose face is distorted from shock, and turns to leave. Wait a minute, Yu Yinran screams. Dijun, have you forgotten that the polar domain also participated in the Great War that killed the Shin musicians? Now that the Shin musicians have made a comeback, aren't you afraid that they'll come to the polar domain to seek revenge? Di Mingju stops, turns his head, and coldly looks at her. Being stared at by such a cold gaze, Yu Yinran could not help but shiver. For a moment, all the resentment and grievances were replaced by indescribable fear. However, at this moment, the handsome, godlike man slowly curled the corners of his lips and revealed a smile. This smile was not the usual disdainful sneer that he had. Instead, it was filled with interest, anticipation, and a gentle but genuine smile. I'm looking forward to it. What did he expect? Expecting the Shin musicians to come knocking on my door for revenge? Everyone was dumbfounded. Was the Emperor's brain damaged? How could he expect the Shun musicians to come knocking on his door for revenge? Could it be that the emperor was so confident in himself that he believed that even if the Shun musicians came knocking on his door, they would be completely crushed by him? That's right, that must be it. The Emperor Lord was the only immortal emperor in the Shioshin continent. The glorious sun swallows the heavens. The leaf fire 9 luminaries, innately able to use divine power. How could such a supreme king be afraid of mere remnants of the Shun musicians? As a result, everyone looks at Diming Ju with more and more reverence. The only people present who could understand Diming Ju's meaning, Elder Chong and Han Yi, can't help but have the corners of their mouths twitch. They dare to use the 10,000 years of prestige of the polar domain to guarantee that the expectation that their Jun Shang speaks of and what these people are thinking are absolutely two different things. Chapter 3102. What are you expecting? Of course, you're expecting the Shun musician successor to come knocking for revenge, and then fight at the head of the bed and reconcile at the end. Elder Chong covers his face and runs away in tears. His family's pure and dignified Jun Shang. When did he become like this? Even he himself has been led astray. Moral integrity and whatnot, it's getting further and further away from him. Diming Ju doesn't care what everyone thinks. After being interrupted again and again to find Mayan, his impatience has accumulated to the extreme. This time, he doesn't even wait for Yu Yinran to speak again. He simply doesn't choose to ride his sword. Instead, he takes a step forward with Xiao Bao in his arms, and his figure instantly disappears, tearing through space, shrinking the earth to inches. Di Jun! Yu Yinran lets out a heart-wrenching cry, rushing forward to stop him. However, what he caught was only an empty space. She stands there in a daze, her hands suddenly clenching into fists. The sorrow and pain in her heart make her eyes redden again, and her body can't stop trembling on the verge of collapse. "Miss, are you all right?" Huang Shouchuan nervously supports her, his face full of worry. Seeing the heartbroken expression on Yu Yinran's face, Huang Shouchuan's chest bursts with anger. He abruptly turns to look at Elder Chong and the others, saying sternly, "The polar domain is evading the important and dwelling on the trivial regarding the eradication of the Shun musicians. They're not trying to shield the remaining Shun musicians, are they?" Elder Chong is roused by Huang Shouchuan's questioning, finally recovering from the tears of self-doubt and lack of moral integrity. Seeing that the bad-tempered Star Wolf is about to rush forward to reason, he promptly pulls him back, revealing a kind smile. "Deputy Island Master Huang, whether or not the remaining Shin musicians have already matured, whether or not they will bring disaster to the Shioshin continent, no one knows right now. But one thing is very clear. This time, the pillars of heaven collapsed. The calamity of the poltergeist ghosts. If it wasn't for the sudden descent of the miracle of the 9 stars and the moon, would all of us here still be safe and sound? What kind of situation would the Shioshin continent fall into?" As soon as these words come out, everyone present quivers. In their minds, they can't help but recall the frightening and almost invincible rank 6 poltergeist ghosts. If it wasn't for the 9 stars and the moon, if it wasn't for that rain that fell from the sky and healed all of them, would they still be alive? The answer was obviously yes. For a moment, the remnants of the Shun musicians are all thrown to the back of his mind. After all, the sky-toppling disaster was right in front of them, and every one of them had personally experienced it. That kind of fear and powerlessness, as well as the ecstasy of suddenly grasping hope in a hopeless situation, even now, when he thought about it, his heart still thumped nonstop. As for the calamity of the Shun musicians, it's been 1,000 years, and everyone's impression of it has faded. There were even more people whose cultivation levels were too low 1,000 years ago and did not have the qualifications to participate in the war at all. So at this time, it was far less memorable than the sky-toppling disaster that had just ended. Elder Chong was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. He continued, "The 9 stars and moon appeared right after the spirit clock. Is there any connection between the two? Was it triggered by the same person?" If the person who triggered the 9 stars and moon and saved all of our lives is really the successor of the Shen musicians, yet everyone killed him indiscriminately, isn't this too ungrateful? However, the spirit cultivators did not react to Elder Chang's words. The demonic cultivators were already shouting and yelling. Cruel and unscrupulous, burning the bridge after crossing the river. He's too much. Chapter 3103. Ha ha! These spirit cultivators are a bunch of sanctimonious hypocrites. It's not surprising that he would do such a thing. After the battle ended, Jun Shirtion led the Devil Race army and left. On the Netherrealm side, Yin Yuani suddenly fainted at the end of the battle, either because he was frightened or because he was injured by the poltergeist ghosts. At this time, even though Yu Chun already looked down on this young master, seeing him like this, he still nervously brought his people back to the Netherrealm. Thus, at this moment, the majority of the people left above the hidden abyss were spirit cultivators who were loyal to the polar domain, as well as devil cultivators who were purely here to watch the fun. The demon race believed that the strong were respected, and their fist spoke. He had a straightforward personality and did not like to scheme. He doesn't have much ill will towards the Shun musicians who completely destroyed the major sects of the Xioshan continent 1,000 years ago. On the contrary, he and the spirit cultivators have always been incompatible like fire and water. Therefore, when he heard Elder Chang's words, he immediately seized the opportunity to mock him. Cough, cough. Elder Chang coughed twice, interrupting the devil cultivators shouting. He said in all seriousness, "That's why my polar domain isn't in a hurry to declare our position. Naturally, we don't want to become ungrateful people. I believe that Deputy Island Master Huang should understand this, right?" Huang Shouchuan's expression was somewhat ugly. His question was easily avoided by Elder Chang. Moreover, Elder Chang's words have given the remaining Shun musicians a good impression. If in the future it is proven that the 9 stars and the moon is caused by the remnants of the Shun musicians, I'm afraid that these people will instead treat that slut as a benefactor. Huang Shouchuan gritted his teeth and said, "Using small favors to buy people's hearts is the Shun musicians' usual method." Small favors? Before Elder Chang could reply, a fiendish cultivator shouted, "Why don't you show us some of these small favors?" TSK. I saw that they were in a very sorry state just now. They even used their own subordinates as shields. If not for the appearance of the 9 stars and moon, they would have long since become bait for the nightmare ghosts. That's why I said, spirit cultivators are all shameless. They've just received a favor from others, and now they're turning against them. Huang Shouchuan's face alternated between green and white. Yu Yinran's lips also trembled, and she was so ashamed and furious that she wished for nothing more than to fling her sleeves and leave immediately. Because right now, it wasn't just the demons who were mocking them. Even many spirit cultivators stole suspicious glances at them. "Umipa," Jing Yuan suddenly said, just as Almsgiver Chang said. This time, with the collapse of the pillars of heaven, if all the living beings in the world were really saved by the remnants of the Shun musicians, then it would be hard to explain the grudges between them. His voice paused, and he frowned slightly, as if he was at a loss and in a difficult position. But this poor monk has heard Master speak of the calamity of the Shun musicians. It is by no means an ordinary disaster. If the remnants of the Shun musicians are really Elder Jing Yuan of Shun, elder of them, Elder Jing of Master, of Li Li, of Li Fu, but if the remnants of the Shun musicians really bring disaster to the Xioshan continent and harm innocent lives, my polar domain will not stand idly by. Of Chang, in the crowd, cultivators of Chang of Jing Yuan's face also shows a relieved expression. His originally kind and dignified face is now tainted with the shyness and clarity of a young man. Then, this poor monk can rest assured. Only Han Yi, Ying Mei, and Xing Lang couldn't help but glance at the awe-inspiring righteousness of Elder Chang and roll their eyes. Chapter 3104. Dupe. You keep duping. With their Junshang's love for his wife and henpecked, if the polar domain really attacks the Shun musicians, then they can only wait to be locked up in the purgatory pool. Oh, maybe they can even sneak a peek and see their Junshang kneeling on the golden Bodhi fruit. Shoshin continent, polar domain. Di Mingju holds Xiao Bao and steps into the Chinquan mirror. The room lights up with a sparkling light, and the entire space appears to be slightly distorted. However, after a moment, the sparkling light dissipates. Di Mingju and Xiao Bao still stay in the room. The Chinquan mirror in front of them has already lost its luster, turning into the most ordinary mirror. Di Mingju's complexion is ashen. Xiao Bao looks at him worriedly. Daddy, what happened? Can't we see Nyangqin? Di Mingju takes a deep breath, and it takes a long while to suppress his surging emotions. He says in a low voice, Xiao Bao will first go sleep in Daddy's portable space. When you wake up, Daddy will take you to see Nyangqin. Even though Xiao Bao was filled with worry, he still nodded obediently. When Di Mingju puts him into the portable space, he suddenly grabs Di Mingju's hand. His big ice blue eyes stare at him without blinking. Xiao Bao wants Nyangqin to be well, and also wants Daddy to be well. Daddy, don't get hurt again, okay? Otherwise Nyangqin and Xiao Bao will be distressed. Di Mingju stares blankly for a while, before revealing a soft smile. Okay. After Xiao Bao enters the portable space, Di Mingju shouts, Come, have Sunglasses Chung roll to see Ben Jun. In Ling Xiao Hall, a man wearing a gorgeous robe is trembling with fear as he kneels in front of Di Mingju. He can't wait to knock his head into the cracks of the bluestone bricks. Di Mingju looks at him coldly. Speak, what's going on? The man coughs softly and shakily raises his head. This person has a square face, thick eyebrows and big eyes, and his facial features are masculine and handsome. But the problem is, with this kind of appearance, he's wearing clothes as gorgeous as a peacock's. His face is also smeared with a thick layer of powder, directly painting his originally bronze skin to be as pale as a ghost's. Coupled with his thick, black, sword-like eyebrows and thick lips, he looked extremely comical. However, this person seemed to be completely unaware of his strange appearance and clothing. He had to show off his elegant and unrestrained demeanor with every move he made. Even if he was now in fear and trepidation, he had to make sure that his kneeling posture was perfect and flawless, showing off the elegance of a distinguished scholar. My lord, this matter is a little complicated. Please allow this subordinate to explain it to you in detail. Di Mingju, make it short. Lord, you may not know this, but the situation is complicated. It really can't be done in a short time. This subordinate will first analyze the 5 possible hypotheses for you, in addition to the 12 derivations. Di Mingju's cold voice doesn't fluctuate. Drag him down and feed him to the Harkin. Wait a minute. Sunglasses Chung finally panicked. He threw all the distinguished persona to the back of his mind. He quickly said in a loud voice, There's a problem with the passage between the Xioshin continent and the Xioshin continent. We can't go anymore. What do you mean by you can't go? Elder Chong and the others, who had just entered the hall, heard Sunglasses Cheng's words. They don't even pay their respects to Di Mingju and can't help but wonder. The Chinquan mirror is a holy object. Even if there are any fluctuations in the space passage, the Chinquan mirror can still protect us through. Chapter 3105. What's more, with Lord's current cultivation, even if you don't rely on the heaven and earth mirror, if you want to go to the cultivation continent, you'll at most consume a little divine essence. Why can't I leave? Sunglasses Chung flicked his sleeves and shook his head with a look of disdain. I've said to make it short. You won't understand. Let me explain in detail. In the middle of his sentence, he gave God a cold look. Sunglasses Chung immediately shrunk his neck and immediately changed his words. Someone closed the one-way passage between the Xioshin continent and the other continents. Impossible. Who can do it? It's impossible for anyone to do it. Sunglasses Chung coughs lightly. If you want to close the passage of the space barrier with your bare hands, then of course it's as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Even if it's Jun Shang, I'm afraid that you won't be able to do it. However, with the help of a holy artifact, it would be a different story. If I were to do it, there would be at least 5 methods with a 100% success rate and 12 methods with a 60% success rate. Star Wolf said unhappily. King Shua, what nonsense are you saying? In the entire Xioshin continent, there's only one space treasure of the saint level, and that is our polar domain's treasure, the Heaven and Earth Mirror. Sunglasses Chung was the palace lord of the Tianxua Palace in the polar domain, and all the previous palace lords of the Tianxua Palace were called King Shua. Just as Star Wolf finished speaking, he himself did not notice. Han Yi, Ying Mei, defeating armies, and Elder Chong all have their complexions change. He could use the universe mirror to close the spatial barrier. That meant that this person was definitely within the polar domain. Moreover, his status in the polar domain was definitely not low. Otherwise, he would be discovered by the Imperial Guards as soon as he got close to the universe mirror. Elder Chong suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, "Where's Diding?" Every time Lord leaves the polar domain, he will get Truth Listener to monitor the entire mountain domain. It's impossible for Truth Listener to not notice someone approaching the cosmic mirror, right? Upon hearing this, Sunglasses Chung restrained the teasing expression on his face and slowly said, "Sometime after the 9 stars and moon phenomenon appeared, Truth Listener suddenly became extremely irritable. I wanted to appease it, but it was completely useless. During that time, the polar domain was out of the range of Diding surveillance. Later, after the Truth Listener calmed down, I communicated with it with my divine sense to tell it what had happened. It said that it heard a sound, like the sound of a piano or a flute, and then it lost consciousness. I think that if someone wanted to use the universe mirror to close the spatial barrier passage, it would definitely be at that time." Elder Chong and the others looked extremely grim, be it controlling Truth Listener or approaching the cosmic mirror. One thing was certain. This person was definitely in the polar domain, and his status was certainly not low. Elder Chong frowned and asked, "But why did you close the spatial barrier? In fact, there aren't many people from the Xioshin continent who want to go to the Xioshin continent or the Yinwu continent. And for the people of the Xioshin continent and the Yinwu continent to come up, it's as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Even if they closed the spatial barrier, what was the use?" Sunglasses Chung suddenly said faintly, "The people of the Xioshin continent can't go down, but the people of the Xioshin continent can come up. Furthermore, there is only one entrance that connects to the cultivation continent's heavenly tribulation stairway." Elder Chang's eyelids twitched as a thought flashed through his mind. Miss June. Someone wanted to capture Miss June. Chapter 3106. Elder Chang's voice almost screams, but he thinks of June Mayan's special identity, and that Sunglasses Chung is still at the scene. He forcibly swallows back the words that are on the tip of his tongue. The power distribution under the polar domain imperial family was extremely heterogeneous. Sunglasses Chang's surname was Mo, so he was naturally part of the royal family. It's just that Diming Ju is different from the other members of the imperial family, who once fought to the death with Diming Ju. From start to finish, Sunglasses Chung has supported Diming Ju to become a polar domain plant. He and his Tianxua Palace have always been loyal and devoted to Diming Ju. But Jun Mine's identity is really too sensitive. Even if the sunglasses were complete, Elder Chong would not dare to reveal anything to him. At this time, Diming Ju coldly says, "No matter what method you use, within 6 hours, open a new passage. Ben Jun wants to go to the Xioshin continent." Sunglasses Chung stared blankly. Then his whole face twitched and twisted. "Jun Shang, are you joking with me?" Diming Ju looks at him expressionlessly. No, that's impossible. Do you know how terrifying the changes in energy laws are in the void where the spatial rampart is located? Of course, it's possible to open a new passage, but it requires a huge amount of calculation and energy sorting. Give me 3 months. Diming Ju looks at him faintly, then says, "It only took them 4 hours to control D-Ting to approach the cosmic mirror, and close the spatial barrier passage. I'll give you 6 hours, but you won't be able to do it. Are you admitting that you're weaker than others in the law of space? Fuck, how is this possible? Sunglasses Chung smashed the ground and fiercely jumped up. Damn, in terms of the law of space, if I, your father, claim to be number 1, no one will dare to claim to be number 2. 6 hours is 6 hours. Dimingju, just you wait. Elder Chong and the others couldn't help but laugh as they watched the sunglasses leaving like a whirlwind. Goading Prince Shuo was forever effective. However, Dimingju, who is sitting in the seat of honor, tightly clenches his hands. 6 hours. It had been too long. Yin Yin, you have to wait for me. You absolutely cannot cross the tribulation and ascend at this time. I can't come to the Xiaoxian continent now. The night was as black as ink. On the bank of the river of forgetfulness in the nether realm, a figure silently landed on the ground and knelt down towards the tall figure standing in front of him. Greetings, Priest Lu Yun. The newcomer raised his head and handed over a letter, respectfully saying, "There's news from the polar domain. The matter that his lordship ordered has been completed." Mu Luyan took the letter and scanned it with his divine sense. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. In the next moment, a flame burst out from his fingertip and burned the letter into ashes. "Have you arranged the people to wait at the entrance of the stairway?" The person on the ground hurriedly said, "Priest, please rest assured. Everything has been arranged according to the master's arrangements. Within 6 hours, as long as someone ascends from the cultivation continent and ascends to the heaven stairway, they won't be able to escape from us." Mu Luyan nodded. Then he looked up at the starless and moonless sky. The dazzling scene of the 9 stars and moon appeared in his mind. The glorious sun swallows the heavens. The 9 stars link to the moon, the cold jade scarlet crow, the flowing light for 10,000 li. This person is definitely related to Dimingju, or perhaps she is the person who can change the fate of Dimingju and the 3 realms. In any case, we can't let her meet Dimingju. If his lordship can't use her, it would be better to destroy her, Mu Luyun said in a low voice. He suddenly took out an array disc and gently fiddled with it. Chapter 3107. 1 Second Remember Love Net. Providing you with wonderful reading. Mu Luyun says in a low voice, suddenly taking out an array disc and gently fiddling with it. His brows sometimes relax and sometimes frown, revealing an extremely puzzled look. "Priest, what are you still worried about?" The subordinate asks cautiously. "You previously divined that a heavenly tribulation would soon descend on the Xiaoxian continent and either destroy or ascend. It's fine if that person dies under the heavenly tribulation, but even if he's lucky enough to ascend, we have already closed all the other passages, leaving only this entrance to the heaven stairway. If this person ascends, he absolutely won't be able to escape our palm." "Yes, he shouldn't be able to escape our palm." Mu Luyan murmurs, "It's impossible. There are other variables, Xiaoxian continent, Fengtian mountain range." 2 figures turn into flaming sword shadows in the air. From time to time, the sword energy explodes, turning the Fengtian mountain range into a scene of devastation. The vicious beasts that originally lived in the mountain range have long since fled without a trace. In the sky, Mu Yin steps, lotus-blooming steps, and her figure gradually turns into 7, surrounding Ning Su. Flowing sword shadow. With one move, the 7 absolute swords in the hands of the 7 shadows instantly transform into sword shadows that fill the sky, covering Ning Su in an overwhelming manner. The intermittent sound of the zither keeps ringing between heaven and earth. At this moment, all the Shin musician skills are combined and applied to the extreme. Ning Su is surrounded by a sky full of sword rain, but there's no trace of panic on his face. Instead, the corner of his mouth hooks up in a mocking arc. Just as the sword light is about to fall, he suddenly opens his mouth and lets out a ruthless howl. Shattering ghost cry. An ear-piercing whistle suddenly resounds, causing the figures of the 7 sword-wielding girls to suddenly stop, their faces revealing a pained expression. More than half of the sword light that originally fell like an inescapable net is instantly shattered. On the other end of the Fengtian mountain range, the vicious beasts and birds that haven't escaped in time are all wailing in pain. They fall to the ground, bleeding from their 7 orifices. Countless snakes, insects, rats, and ants roll out of the ground, eventually turning into corpses. At the foot of the mountain, Yin Ruhan and the other 5 have pained expressions, frantically operating their spiritual power, struggling to hold on. But they feel as if their eardrums and internal organs are about to burst. Fortunately, at this moment, the melodious sound of a zither could be heard. In an instant, a wall of sound was created to protect them. The 6 of them heaved a sigh of relief. From above, Ning Su let out a cold laugh. You're fighting against me, and you still have the mood to care about the life and death of others. Junmayan, are you looking down on me? As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Su suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air. Mu Yin immediately wants to retreat. However, what Ning Su's palm brought with it was not a suction force, but a thunderous impact that was like a huge wave crashing onto a table. Flying palm. Mu Yin felt a bone-piercing pain in her chest, and her whole body flew out. Ning Su's figure had already disappeared from his original spot. The demon-slaying sword was raised in the air, waiting for her to walk right into the trap and pierce through her heart. Be careful, junior sister. The members of the Xiao Yao sect didn't even have time to adjust their breathing. However, Mu Yan's flying speed was getting faster and faster, and he couldn't control it at all. Seeing that the sword was about to pierce through his back, Ning Su's hand trembled slightly. However, in the next moment, a ray of sword light whistled and exploded. Puchi! The sound of a sharp blade piercing through flesh rang out almost at the same time. The 2 figures collided in the air and then passed by each other. Mu Yin held the 7 absolutes sword in her hand, blood dripping from the tip of the sword. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 3108. 1 second. Remember LoveNet to provide you with exciting reading. Mu Yin holds the 7 absolute sword, blood dripping from the tip of the sword. The dried bloodstains on his back were now stained with fresh red. Ning Su pressed one hand on the left side of his abdomen and looked at the girl in front of him with a complicated expression. Even if he advanced to the tribulation stage, he would only be a hollow immortal. But now, this void immortal had actually injured him. Jun Mayan, how good would it be if you didn't have Jun Shiyuan's bloodline? I will bring you back to the Ning family and make you the young miss of the Ning family that everyone holds in their palms. Mu Yin was slightly gasping for breath. Her face was deathly pale. Just now, when she had injured Ning Su, she had used the last of her 3 self-created swords, destruction of jade and stone. Injuring the enemy is injuring oneself. However, even though she had paid such a huge price, it was still not a fatal injury to Ning Su. Just how strong was Ning Su? If it wasn't for the suppression of the heavenly Tao laws in the cultivation continent, he probably wouldn't even be able to last 15 minutes against him. Hearing Ning Su's words, she revealed a mocking expression. I don't know where your so-called Ning family is, but I don't even have the slightest interest in acknowledging such a stubborn and inhumane family. Ning Su closed his eyes and chuckled softly. Looks like I've only unsealed a third of my strength. It's not enough to kill you. What about unlocking half of the seal? The demon slayer vibrated violently, emitting a buzzing sound. Ning Su's eyes turned red. His black cloak swelled up, and the bamboo hat on his head had already shattered and disappeared. Only his black hair danced in the wind. Every strand of black hair was entwined with an enormous amount of energy that surpassed the limits of this world. They were like massive pythons that would pounce over at any moment to devour everything before them. Mu Yin clenches the 7 absolutes, sword in her hand. For the first time, he felt the despair and helplessness of being completely suppressed. Let's go help little junior sister. Lung Yuma gritted her teeth. I know we're very weak, and even if we go, we might just be a burden to little junior sister, but I feel that little junior sister needs us now. Peak astral projection, especially the 7 unfettered disciples. In the cultivation continent, he was truly an invincible existence. Even Chu Xinyan and Jing Tianyi, who were experts on the Azure Sky Roll, were powerless in front of them. But facing Ming Su, this immortal of unknown origin and identity, they didn't even have to fight against him, but they already felt hopeless and powerless. But no matter how desperate they are, they can't just stand idly by knowing Mayan's suffering. All right, let's go help little junior sister. Even though she had promised Mayan in the beginning that this was her fight alone, even though they might not be able to help at all. However, Yin Ruhan still quickly made a decision. Only the immobile Chu Moli stayed behind. The other 5 people rushed into the sky without hesitation and sped towards the direction where Mu Yin and Ning Su were fighting. The closer they got to the battlefield, the pressure from the demon-slaying sword was suffocating. The 5 of them gritted their teeth and silently approached. Just as they were about to enter the center of the battlefield, Yin Ruhan waved her hand, indicating for everyone to disperse. They did not have the ability to influence the outcome of the battle, but at least he could go all out to harass Ning Su and create an opportunity for his junior sister. However, at this moment, Yin Ruhan's heart skipped a beat. There was an extremely bad premonition that suddenly welled up in his heart. He seemed to have forgotten a very important thing. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 3109. Remember Love Net in 1 second, providing you with exciting reading. Ha ha. Bone-chilling laughter rang out in the dark night. Luo Yu did not have time to react. He felt an ice-cold hand silently caressing his neck, causing goosebumps to appear all over his body. Xiaoqi, be careful. Yin Ruhan roared. The ice-soul sword turned into a cold light and shot towards Luo Yu's back. But he was still a step too late. Ha ha! Your Highness, you'd better not act rashly. The little prince is in my hands now. If you take another step, don't blame me for breaking the little prince's neck. The 4 of them stopped in their tracks and looked over. Under the dim light of the night, a short, ugly man dressed in a blue robe with his hair combed neatly was holding Luo Yu's neck with his dark, slender, ghostly claw-like hands. His fingertips carelessly slid and immediately pierced the skin on Luo Yu's neck. Blood flowed out of the wound and instantly turned purple. His nails were poisonous. Yin Ruhan said sternly, Gue Ci, if you dare to hurt Xiaoqi, I will tear you into pieces. Ha ha, Your Highness, why are you so angry? In the little prince's body is the base soul pearl that the imperial advisor wants the most. Unless I have no other choice, how could I bear to kill my beloved little prince? Yin Ruhan gritted her teeth. What do you want? Hey, so many years have passed. Your Highness has been reincarnated, and even your personality has changed. You don't look like the host of the Nightmare Ghost at all. But his loyalty to the little prince hasn't changed at all. Gue Ci's laughter became even more ear-piercing. Although your Highness has a mortal body and can no longer summon the Nightmare Ghost, I can't be at ease. If you want to save the little prince's life, please break your own arms first. I can only be at ease if your Highness is unable to make hand seals and summon. Dream on. Luo Yu roared, the spiritual power in his body surging wildly. But Gue Ci seemed to have predicted Luo Yu's actions. Soul Reaper Chain appeared in an instant. Luo Yu screamed in pain. Her body lit up with a strange light. The soul orb that was about to float out of her body was forcefully pushed back. Keek. This soul-detaining chain was specially prepared by the Spirit Master for you. Little Prince, this little one has patiently waited here for so long, just for this one fatal strike. Keek. Your Highness, are you ready? Either you break your own arms, or you watch as your beloved brother is tortured to death in my hands. Damn it, this old lady will fight it out with you. Lung Yuma raised her Red Lotus Soul stealing blade and was about to slash down. Stop. Yin Ruhan roared. Almost as soon as his voice fell, the soul-restraining chain lit up with a dazzling light. A bloody mist exploded from Luo Yu's body, and her clothes were dyed red with blood. The extreme pain caused his face to contort, but he bit his lips tightly. Even when blood seeped out from the corner of his lips, he refused to let out a single groan. However, Lung Yuma suddenly retracted her saber. Because she retracted her saber too quickly, the spiritual power backfired, and she felt a sharp pain in her chest. But how could this pain compare to the hatred she felt when she saw her little brother being tortured? Seeing their reactions, Phantom Sting laughed even more wildly. TSK, TSK, Your Highness really knows me well. I've been holed up in this damn place where I can't cultivate for a whole 15 years. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 3110. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. I don't have the slightest bit of patience left. It's fine if you listen obediently, but if you continue to obstruct me, I will let you die. All of you will die without a burial ground. Guaci takes a deep breath, slowly straightening his distorted face. So, Your Highness, don't test my patience anymore. Quickly do as I say. Otherwise, just wait to see the little prince cut into pieces by the soul-arresting chains. Eldest brother, you can't. Luo Yu's voice is hoarse and trembling, carrying a desperate plea. He hopes that eldest brother won't care about him this time. He hopes to die like this and not become a burden to eldest brother. But deep in his heart, he knows that it's impossible. He doesn't have any memories from more than 10 years ago. But in these 15 years, he has always known how eldest brother has guarded and protected him, like a pearl or a treasure, better than life. Sure enough, the man in front of him puts away the long sword in his hand, revealing a gentle and elegant smile. Neither servile nor overbearing, a gentleman with proper manners, but tolerant and protective of every junior brother and sister in the sect. Fine, I promise you. Mayan hears the sound and turns to look. She realizes that something terrible is about to happen. However, she is only slightly distracted. There's a sharp pain in her left shoulder. Ning Su's voice is bone-chilling. At a time like this, you still have the mind to worry about others. Mayan uses a backhand to block the demon-slaying sword, saying sternly, Ning Su, you said that this is a fight that only belongs to the two of us. But you actually despicably arranged such a trap to lay your hands on my fellow disciples. Ning Su furrowed his brows and said with a cold smile, After killing you, killing these people is like crushing ants to me. Arrange a trap? Junmayan, you think too highly of your Xiaoyao school. Saying that, Ning Su's gaze still turns to Guaci, cold and disgusted. He can fight Junmayan to the death, but he doesn't want Junmayan to misunderstand that he's using despicable and insidious means. Guaci is stared at by Ning Su's cold gaze, and he can't help but feel a chill down his spine. He comes from the floating island. He knew better than anyone how powerful, cruel, and terrifying this Ning family direct descendant was. Guaci's voice trembled. Young Master Ning, the state preceptor wants me to greet you. I would never dare to covet the prey that you want, but Yin Ruhan and Lan Liu are people that the state preceptor wants to bring back. If we offended young Master Ning, please forgive us. The imperial tutor said that another day he will bring the imperial family's treasure and personally visit the Ning family to apologize. At this time, Phantom Sting's words were intermittent and trembling. He no longer had the perverted arrogance from before. Ning Su snorts coldly and finally no longer pays attention to him. The demon-slaying sword once again attacks Mayan. Sword chi overflowed. Affected by the sword aura of the demon-slaying sword, the doppelganger of layers of phantom came to a halt. The below steps under Mu Yan's feet paused. The demon-slaying sword once again left a wound on her body that was so deep that the bone could be seen. Ning Su said coldly as he closed in on Mu Yan. From the very beginning, you fell out with me because of this Yun Ruhan. Regardless of whether he dies here or has his arms chopped off, he only has himself to blame. All evil spirits should die. Hearing Ning Su's words, Gue Si's heart, which had almost jumped to his throat, finally calmed down. Once again, he laughed maniacally. Chapter 3111. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. Phantom Sting's face was distorted with extreme excitement. Your Highness, no one will interrupt us now. Come on, break your own arms. You don't need a sword. You only need to explode your spiritual power to shatter the flesh and bones of your arms. I think you can do such a simple thing. Huh? Eldest brother. Stop. Tears welled up in Luo Yu's eyes as she growled in a low voice. No. Eldest senior brother, please don't. Yin Ruhan took a deep breath and smiled at Luo Yu, as usual. Xiao Qi, don't be afraid. I'm here. Phantom Sting looked at Yin Ruhan excitedly, waiting for the moment when the summoner of Nightmare Ghost, known as the Killing God, was called a cripple in front of him. However, at this moment, a sharp whistle sounded in Phantom Sting's ears. Then he felt his body being ruthlessly knocked away, and a sharp pain suddenly came from his arm. Ah! Phantom Sting let out a blood-curdling scream. When he came back to his senses, he discovered that his arm, which was holding onto the soul-arresting chain, had been chopped off. At his waist, there was a pair of hands hugging him tightly. This pair of hands was holding a dagger dipped in poison. It circled around his back and stabbed deep into him. Damn it! Gue Si shouted angrily. Without even looking at the person who was hugging him, he raised his hand and slammed it down on the top of the person's head. Puff! A line of blood shot at Phantom Thorn's waist. The hands that were hugging him finally drooped down powerlessly. Sly thrust kicked the person away. Only then did he angrily go to see who it was. He really didn't expect that he would be sneak attacked by a mere cultivator from the cultivation continent. Master, Yin Ruhan and the others hadn't expected the situation to change so suddenly. The five of them didn't even have time to see who it was before they saw Phantom Sting's arm get chopped off. When the man was kicked away by the Phantom Thorn, they finally saw his face. Shi Qing. It was the sect leader of the Xiao Yao school, the master of the seven of them, Shi Qing. Master. For the first time, fear and helplessness appeared on Yun Ruhan's usually calm face. He scrambled over and supported Shi Qing's blood-covered body. Master. Aside from Mu Yin, who was fighting with Ning Su, everyone else from the Xiaoyao school gathered around. Luo Yu struggled to break free from the soul-restraining chains. Every inch of her meridians and skin was burning with pain. However, he didn't even have the time to swallow a pill as he hurriedly stumbled over. Looking at Shi Qing, whose skull was shattered and whose brain juice was flowing all over his face. Luo Yu only felt a buzzing sound in her head. Everything became blank. Master, don't scare me. Six senior sister, yes, wait for Six senior sister. Wait for her to save you. Six senior sister is so powerful. She can definitely save you. In the sky, Mu Yin clenched his teeth and plucked the zither strings, transforming into a clone. However, as soon as this clone appeared, he was defeated by Ning Su's sword. Mu Yin suddenly spits out a mouthful of blood, her body on the verge of collapse. Her eyes were bloodshot as she looked at Ning Su, almost begging, "Give me some time. Let me save my master first. Just give me 2 hours, no, an hour. Just give me the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Just give me the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." Chapter 3112. Go to hell. Mu Yin fiercely slashed out with the 7 absolute swords in her hands, one strike after another, without any pattern, but like a crazy demon. Ning Su, I swear, if anything happens to my master today, I will never forgive you. One day, I will make you pay with your blood. I will make your Ning family restless. Ning Su laughed coldly. That depends on whether you can survive from my hands. Your Highness. Shi Qing grabbed Luo Yu, who was about to replace Mu Yin. Your Highness, please listen. Listen to this old official. This old official has already suffered a fatal injury on the floating island. Since then, I have been unable to cultivate, and simply cannot live for more than a few years. I have been struggling at death's door because I can't let go of you and your highness. This old official knows those who wanted to kill you 15 years ago still have survived. As long as they are still alive, your whereabouts will be exposed to the state preceptor. This old subject is alive to give them the final fatal blow. Almost at the same time, Gui Ci suddenly shouted in horror, "What poison did you smear on the dagger? What poison is this?" They turned their heads to look. They saw that the wound on Gui Ci's waist was actually burning with a purple flame. And this flame spread extremely fast, covering more than half of Gui Ci's body in a flash. Shi Qing's breathing was already weak, but seeing this scene, he still laughed out loud. Gui said, I was like a dog, begging to live under Chu Xinyan's hands, even willing to let the world know that I am a beast who betrayed his disciple. Why do you think I did this? I have been waiting for you. This dagger smeared with purple apex fire. I've been preparing it for you for 15 years. Are you surprised? Surprised? Ha ha! Purple apex fire. You are Shi Yuanqing. Shi Yuanqing, you are still alive. Gui Ci screamed loudly, using purple apex fire in the Xiozhen continent. Do you not want to live? As Phantom Sting shouted, the purple flame instantly engulfed his entire body, leaving only a pile of dust on the ground. Shi Qing's eyes became more and more unfocused. The hand that held the dagger was also burning with the same purple flame. Master, Lung Yumao and the others hurriedly clapped their hands. However, when his hand landed on the purple flame, he didn't feel any warmth at all. It was as if he had touched an illusory object and directly passed through it. However, the flames on Shi Qing's body were rising higher and higher, gradually covering more than half of his body. Just by looking at Phantom Sting's pained expression, one could imagine how painful it was to be engulfed by the purple apex fire. However, Shi Qing revealed a gratified smile. Don't cry. Our carefree sect doesn't like this kind of mushy farewell. Master has been troubled by his old wounds for more than 10 years. Now that he's free, you should be happy for him. The 5 of them had tears streaming down their cheeks. Even Chu Moli, who was sitting in a wheelchair, was tightly gripping the armrest, his eyes completely red. Your First Highness, you must protect the little highness in the future. Yin Ruhan grabbed Shi Qing's hand, her tears falling like rain, but she couldn't say a word. Shi Qing then looked at Luo Yu. Little Highness, I can only protect you until now. In the future, you must take care. Chapter 31:13. Remember love net in 1 second, providing you with exciting reading. What prince? What prince? What Lan Empire? What does any of this have to do with me? At this moment, Luo Yu finally exploded. His tears fell like rain as he screamed, I don't want revenge. I don't want to find my past. I don't want anyone to die for me. I just want to be happy in the carefree sect and be your little 7. Master. Xiao Qi, please don't die, okay? From the moment Xiao Qi opened his eyes, there were only you and senior brothers and sisters. To Xiao Qi, you are master, father, and the most important family. Xiao Qi can't live without you. Turbid tears rolled down Shi Qing's face. He reached out his trembling hand and touched Luo Yu's head. His voice was soft. Xiao Qi, your master Xiao Qi, you have to live well in the future. Even if you don't get rich, even if you don't have a bright future, you have to be safe and happy. Master. A blood-red figure suddenly fell from the sky and rushed to Shi Qing. Mu Yin grabbed Shi Qing's arm with her blood-stained hand and said hoarsely, Master, don't close your eyes. Please don't close your eyes. I'm here to save you. I can save millions of people, and I can definitely save you. Shi Qing's eyelids trembled heavily, and there seemed to be a faint smile on his face. Xiao Yanyan, don't cry. I've been very happy in my life, to have you 7 as my disciples, to have the Xiao Yao sect, but my greatest fortune is to have you enter the Xiao Yao sect during the sex election. Because of you, the Xiao Yao sect has new hope. Xiao Yinyan, promise me to live well, the 7 of you, and your junior master, live well together. This life and this night will not last long, to be free and unfettered forever. So good, so good. When the white light rises, purple flames instantly engulfed Shi Qing's body, along with the smile on his face and his hoarse and gentle voice. The world suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Master, Luo Yu murmured softly and reached his hand to the ground. It was covered with a layer of white ash. Master, don't scare Xiao Qi. Drip, drip, drip. It was the blood flowing from Mu Yin and Luo Yu's bodies. It was the tears that fell from their eyes. There was nothing left. The master who would drink wine every day, ride a donkey, and call them obedient disciples with a smile, was gone. Not even his bones were left. Master, Mu Yan's body swayed, and she could no longer support herself. She fell into a pool of blood with a bang. Her back was a bloody mess that was so deep that the bones could be seen. In the sky, Ning Su looked expressionlessly at the fallen girl, his eyes cold and heartless. But for some reason, a teardrop silently slid down from the corner of his eye. Sure, Yuanqing, you old thing. He should have been dead long ago on the floating island, in the northern continent's unclean abyss, but he's actually lingering on his last breath until now. How dare you scheme against me? You made me suffer the pain of being burned by the purple apex flames and destroyed the puppet body that I spent so much effort to cultivate. Yin Ruhan turned around abruptly. He was shocked to find that Creepy Thorn's figure was slowly emerging from the ashes. But compared to his previous arrogance, Creepy Thorn's face was deathly pale. Meeting their horrified gazes, Creepy Thorn let out a sharp laugh. Do you think I'll die so easily? Chapter 31:14. You're just a bunch of ordinary cultivators from the cultivation continent. A useless old man with a broken dantian wants to kill me. Stop dreaming. Ha ha. Luo Yu slowly stood up, his eyes red. He walked towards Phantom Sting step by step, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile like that of an Azura from hell. It's great that you're not dead. He raised his hands and waved them in the air. In a split second, the mountain wind howled and countless rocks, grass, trees, and skeletons flew over, forming a dense puppet formation. Triple, Mirror Realm, was activated. Yin Ruhan took out her Ice Soul Sword and went behind Gue Ci to block his way. Triple, Mountain Sea Realm, was activated. The Ice Soul Sword slashed across the sky and formed an ice wall. Gue Ci, it would be too easy for you if I let you die so easily. Lung Yuma wiped the tears from her eyes and unsheathed her red lotus soul-stealing saber. A blazing flame rose from her back and bloomed into a dazzling red lotus in the air. The red lotuses bloomed one after another, and the scorching flames spread out. It was like the fire of hell. No one could escape. Triple, Blazing Sun Realm, was activated. We want you to die without a burial place. Ling Yuxing opened his hands and slowly closed his eyes. Triple, Absolute Space Realm, was activated. Everything around him seemed to freeze. It was as if countless people from the Xiao Yao sect appeared. We want you to pay with your blood. Boom! The first to attack was Qinjiao. With a punch, the earth shook. The god-level Sumeru space treasure, 100 Disaster City, was smashed into pieces. Kill. You killed Master. I will kill you. Gue Ci didn't take the first, Triple Realm, to heart. But when the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, all of them were Triple, Absolute Space Realm. And there was even the Absolute Space Domain that no one on the floating island had ever seen before. He stole a glance at Ning Su. The man in the air didn't leave or attack again. Instead, he looked at the girl lying in a pool of blood. Gue Ci gritted his teeth and didn't attack again. He just looked at the girl lying in a pool of blood. He didn't believe it. What could mere mortals from the cultivation continent do to him? At most, he would unseal all of his power. After that, he would suffer the punishment of the heavenly Tao's backlash. Phantom Sting chuckled nervously and suddenly opened his eyes. A pair of brown vertical pupils shone brightly. Then, his hands began to quickly form seals in front of his chest. The spiritual power of heaven and earth surged. Then, horrifying scarlet-eyed fire bats started to appear behind him one after another. There were more than 100 of them, and every one of them was the size of an eagle. They stared at Luo Yu and the others viciously. Hee hee. Come on, do you really think I'm afraid of you mortal cultivators? Since you guys want to die, then you can all become the food of my red-eyed fire bats. Hee. The two sides instantly became entangled in battle, even though he had summoned all of the scarlet-eyed fire bats. The ferocity of the red-eyed fire bats was just as he had expected. Not long after, the 5 people of the Xiao Yao sect were bitten by the sharp teeth of the scarlet-eyed fire bat. But the more he fought, the more frightened he became. These people are crazy. All of them are crazy. They are not afraid of death at all. Even though there were 3 scarlet-eyed fire bats pouncing on them, they still rushed towards him. Chapter 31:15. Not long after, Gu Ci's body was filled with countless sword and knife wounds. There were also Qin Jio's huge fists that cracked his bones. But these were not what Gu Ci feared and tormented the most. During the battle, there would be tiny puppets constantly drilling into his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Once one wave was broken, another wave would immediately follow up. Luo Yu's face was pale, and blood flowed out of her 7 orifices. But she did not stop controlling the puppets, torturing and destroying him. Ah! Get lost! Get lost! Gu Ci was going crazy. He roared in a shrill voice as if he had gone mad. You're courting death. Good. Then I'll kill you. Kill you. He screamed hysterically, and there was no longer any rationality in his eyes. At this moment, he could not even think of bringing Luo Yu back to the floating island alive. At this moment, Gu Ci only wanted to kill them, kill these little bastards who tortured and humiliated him. Using his divine sense, the scarlet-eyed fire bats in the sky began to gather. But at this moment, the surrounding time and space suddenly froze, as if someone pressed pause. Ling Yuxing closed his eyes and opened his hands, as if he was holding something in his fingers. At the same time, Chu Moli, who had not participated in the battle, moved. A silver bow appeared in his hands, and 2 black arrows were knocked on the string. The bowstring vibrated, and 2 black arrows flew out. Ah! My eyes! Gu Ci let out a heart-wrenching scream and covered his eyes with both hands. 2 streams of blood flowed down from between his fingers. Bastards! You forced me to do this. I'll die with you. Scarlet-eyed fire bats, fuse and self-destruct. Ha! If I can't live, then don't think of living either. Die together. Let's all die together. But at this moment, Gu Ci felt a terrifying pressure coming from the sky. The scarlet-eyed fire bats that were under his control seemed to be frightened by something. They screamed and fled, then disappeared into the air. Brat, how dare you? A coarse voice that didn't have any undulations entered Erie's ears. Phantom Sting, on the other hand, felt as if his soul had been hit hard. Extreme fear, despair, and unresisting surrender surged into his mind. Creepy Sting's knees went soft, and he knelt on the ground with a thud, his eyes widened in horror. At this moment, he could not see anything, but he knew what had happened. It was Witzard. Lan Luoyu summoned the true Bei's divine beast. That was the source of the floating island's power, a power that belonged to the owner of the bloodline that could not be resisted. He had never expected Phantom Sting. Not only could Lan Luoyu summon, by Z's main body, she could even become a ruler that Bai Zhe would willingly submit to. In the previous battle, as long as Bai Zhe appeared, it would be able to crush him. Lan Luoyu had never done so. Not that he couldn't do it, but he wanted to torture him. It's great that you're not dead. If I let you die so easily, wouldn't it be too easy for you? Eerie Dazzling's vision went black, and he convulsed and fainted. As soon as his head hit the ground, Chu Moli took it into the space. I'll give his person to me for research. I believe you have no objections? Chapter 31:16. No one answered him. Everyone from the Xiaoyao sect turned to look in the direction where Shi Qing disappeared, tears welling up in their eyes. Their master had left them in the end. The old man who brought them back to the Xiaoyao sect when they were at their most desperate and helpless, and gave them a home, would never appear again. Little sister, Lung Yuma suddenly saw Mayan lying in a pool of blood and rushed over. Why is little sister hurt so badly? She must have come back to save master. That's why she risked everything. Ning Su slowly landed on the ground, looking at the unconscious girl and the people of the Xiaoyao sect surrounding her. Suddenly, the demon-slaying sword swept. Boom! With a loud sound, Yun Ruhan and the others were thrown out. Mayan was sent flying by the sword energy, hitting the mountain wall heavily and rolling down. The mountain wall seemed to be unable to withstand such an impact. Countless rocks crumbled down, and the blood-colored figure was crushed to the point where it could no longer be seen. Little sister, sixth sister, Luo Yu and the others rushed over like crazy. They had almost used up all their spiritual power in the battle with the Phantom Thorn. Right now, they didn't even have the strength to break the boulder. Qin Jiu punched the boulder again and again. Blood gushed out, but it didn't stop. Little sister, live. Little sister, please don't die. Don't die. Master's already left us. You can't. When the rubble was dug up, they saw the bloody and weak figure inside. They couldn't hold back their tears anymore. Little sister is still alive. That's great. Ning Su continued to walk forward step by step. Jun Mayan, stand up. You dare to betray me with this little ability? Yin Ruhin trembled as she brought the medicine to Mayan's lips. Before she could feed it, a sword light came whistling over. Yin Ruhan didn't have time to dodge and felt a sharp pain in her wrist. The pill fell to the ground. His hand had already been cut into a bloody mess by the sword light. Ningsu didn't seem to see anyone else. His eyes were fixed on Mayan. Now you should know, in front of the real gap in strength, the so-called talent and luck are nothing but a joke. Here, I haven't even used half of my strength, and you are already defenseless. Now, do you still think you can defeat me? The girl lying on the ground was motionless, as if she had fallen into a deep sleep and would never wake up. Ning Su suddenly roars hysterically. Jun Mayan, I've given you many chances. Why? Why did you choose to betray me? Why do you have to force me to kill the person I care about the most with my own hands? Ning Su raises the demon-slaying sword again, about to slash at Mayan. Luo Yu pounced forward and grabbed the blade of the demon-slaying sword with her bare hands. Fresh blood gushed out. How can we allow you to take away someone important? Even if I die, I won't, Luo Yu roared. Light flashed behind her, and she released a red and white soul orb. However, he had just fought 2 battles. At this time, whether it was his divine sense or spiritual power, both had been overdrawn to the limit. The 2 soul orbs were much dimmer than before. Before Bai Zhe and Bai Fong appeared, Ning Su suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air. An incomparably powerful energy surged and instantly grasped the 2 soul beads in his palm. Pooh! Luo Yu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Little 7th. Chapter 31:17. 1 second remember, LoveNet, providing you with exciting reading. Yin Ruhan roared angrily, and the ice soul sword pierced towards Ning Su. However, when the tip of the sword reached Ning Su, it was suddenly caught by 2 fingers. Yin Ruhan desperately urged her internal energy, but the long sword seemed to be welded and did not move at all. Just as he was about to withdraw his sword, he suddenly felt a bone-chilling coldness spread from his fingers into his meridians and dantian. Yin Ruhan let out a muffled groan, her face as pale as paper, but she was unable to move at all. Ning Su held the ice soul sword in his right hand and 2 soul orbs in his left. The corners of his mouth curled into a cruel and sinister smile. That day in the Green Feather Mountain, when I fought with you with 90% of my power sealed, did it give you an illusion? Do you think ants like you have the qualifications to speak to me on equal terms? The soul orb in his left hand throbbed violently, emitting a dazzling white light. A murderous glint flashed in Ning Su's eyes, and his fingers suddenly tightened. Ah! Luo Yu let out a shrill scream as her body curled into a ball. Bastard, I'm going to kill you! A ball of blazing scarlet lotus fire soared into the sky. The red lotus soul, capturing Saber, gave off a vicious howl, slashing straight down towards Ning Su. Ling Yuxing and Qin Jiu moved at the same time. Only Chu Moli remained seated in his wheelchair, calmly watching this scene. His complexion was completely pale, and his lips were chapped and trembling. At this moment, he no longer had the slightest ability to fight. Even if Ning Su were to kill his fellow disciples one by one, he could only watch helplessly. Chu Moli slowly turned his head around and looked at the girl covered in blood and dust. Her long eyelashes drooped, and there was no trace of blood on her pale face. His frail body was motionless, as if he had lost all signs of life. Little junior sister, have you really been utterly defeated? I don't want to go through that again, and I believe you don't want to either, right? June Mayan, open your eyes now. Do you hear me? You idiot, why are you so stupid? He obviously has such great potential, but he can't even beat a fool who has sealed most of his cultivation. So noisy. Qi Xiaowang, why are you always so noisy? Mayan's eyelashes trembled slightly, wanting Qi Huang to shut up, but she felt that her eyelids were so heavy and her body was getting colder and colder, more and more out of control. Slowly, her soul drifted out of her body. She saw Luo Yu and Yun Ruhan charging towards Ning Su, saw her fellow disciples unable to fight back against Ning Su. He saw Shi Qing, who had already turned to ash. Master, if the soul had tears, Mayan's face would already be streaming with tears. She could save the world, but she couldn't save her master. Now, even his fellow disciples were going to be killed by Ning Su? No, absolutely not. The Xiaoyao sect is my home. Ever since she came to the cultivation continent, this family had always accompanied her and tolerated her. They didn't care about her background and identity. They didn't care that she had a child out of wedlock. No matter how much trouble she caused, her fellow apprentices would not hesitate to stand by her side and tell her with a smile. The 7 unfettered disciples advanced and retreated together, inseparable in life and inseparable in death. How could she allow anyone to hurt them? How could she allow herself to watch her loved ones die in front of her? But what could she do? Just as Ning Su said, in the face of absolute power, all talent, luck, and tricks became a joke. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 31:18. 1 second remember, love net, to provide you with exciting reading. And this was only 30% of Ning Su's power under the suppression of the heavenly Tao. A world of difference and strength? How could she win? What else could she do to turn the tide? Moon's spiritual root. Do you know what the greatest secret of the moon's spiritual root is? Suddenly, 7 Brilliance's flustered and exasperated voice reached his ears. The chaos of heaven and earth gave birth to the 5 elements. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth complement each other, but they cannot coexist. Once it coexists, it will become barren, unable to cultivate. But the moon's spirit root is different. It's like the ancestor of all things, like its light, like its dust, all-encompassing, without beginning or end. Every time you make a breakthrough, your heaven spirit root will give birth to another one. Water, fire, earth, wood, and metal. When the 5 spirits gather, the primordial chaos is formed. Fuse the 5 spirit roots in your body, Only the true moon spirit root will allow you to control it. Grasp what? Mayan's long eyelashes tremble again. Her mind was still confused, but her body was already changing according to Qi Huang's narration. 5 spiritual roots? Where did she get 5 spiritual roots? That's right, every time she advanced, a new celestial spiritual root would be born in her body. From water at the beginning to fire, earth, wood, and metal. Once she realized this, 5 rays of light immediately lit up in her body. Then, they slowly merged into one, becoming as white as the moon and as lustrous as jade. This ball of white light slowly seeped into her dantian, sea of consciousness, meridians, flesh, and brain. Muyin suddenly feels as if she's grasping something. At that time, when she had just broken through the crossing tribulation stage in the Tianmo Qin space, she had felt a powerful and frightening power drifting around her. But when she tried to sense it carefully, it suddenly disappeared. Now, she finally felt it, or rather, grasped this power. Muyin slowly opens her eyes. What he saw was the scene of devastation at the foot of Mount Foam. However, what appeared in his mind was a completely different scene. There were countless densely packed dots of light and flowing lines. Mayan looks at Ning Su and sees the specks of light wandering around his body, his meridians ultimately converging at his dantian. The same specks of light were also swimming around the bodies of the 6 carefree disciples. Were these dots of light? Muyan's fingers lightly move. The specks of light in the sky seemed to have been summoned and quickly gathered towards her, pouring into her body. He could feel a gurgling warm current flowing into his dried-up dantian. Muyan suddenly widens her eyes. She knew what these spots of light were. That was spiritual power. But at this moment, she could actually see the trajectory of all the spiritual power in the world, and even control them. In his mind, Qi Huang's indistinct voice finally became clearer. The power of law. There is no battle skill stronger than this in the world. Exquisite sword techniques, sharp talisman treasures. In front of the power of laws, they are all trash. In this world that is dominated by spiritual power, once you master the power of the 5 elements, you will truly be an invincible existence. Ning Su stepped on Yun Ruhan's neck and looked down at him. His ice-cold gaze was filled with disgust and hatred, as if he wanted to tear him into pieces. It's all because of you, demon. If not for Yun Ruhan's reincarnation. If the Yun Ruhan who has been reincarnated through possession isn't Mayan's senior brother, he and Muyin shouldn't have come to this step. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zai. Chapter 3119. 1 second. Remember LoveNet to provide you with exciting reading. But there was also a voice that kept ringing in Ning Su's ears. It had nothing to do with Yun Ruhan. His existence only further proves that whether it's Ning Yinshin or Mayan, in the end, it would still be him who would be abandoned. The pain and hatred in Ning Su's heart surged like lava. He raised the demon-slaying sword in his hand and stabbed it at Yun Ruhan's heart. Eldest senior brother. However, the demon-slaying sword suddenly stopped in midair. Ning Su suddenly realized something and turned his head abruptly. Under the hazy night sky, the girl in blood-red clothes had stood up at some point. Her long hair fluttered in the wind like a waterfall and fluttered messily in the air. Her pale face was stained with blood, but it appeared even more crystalline and translucent. Ning Su's pupils violently contract, his mouth muttering 3 words. Jun Mayan. He looked at the young girl who was covered in wounds, but still stood up. Ning Su did not know what he was feeling. Does he want Jun Mayan to die? The surging hatred in his heart told him that he wanted to, but what about after killing Mayan? What was left of his life? Ning Su closed his eyes to hide the pain and resentment in them. In the next moment, he raised the demon-slaying sword and swung it down in Muyan's direction. At this point, what was there to hesitate about? He had no way out. Jun Mayan must die. Seeing the demon-slaying sword Qi whistling towards her, Muyin quietly stood in place, motionless. Suddenly, He raised his hand and lightly waved his sword. This sword strike was really understated, weak, and powerless. However, the overwhelming demon-slaying sword chi disappeared without a trace in an instant. Since the start of the battle, this was the first time Ning Su had a shocked expression on his face. "What did you do?" The seven absolutes sword hung low, almost touching the ground as it slowly approached Ning Su. With every step he took, the tip of his sword would create a wave of air. In the end, the girl's figure became more and more blurry in the airwaves, as if she was going to completely merge with the airwaves. Mu Yan's gaze sweeps around. With the exception of Chu Moli, everyone from the Xiaoyao school had been seriously injured by Ning Su. As for her master, he had already turned into ashes. No matter how heaven-defying her medical skills were, she could not bring him back to life. Mu Yan's gaze finally falls on Ning Su. At this moment, there was no longer a shred of reluctance or hesitation in her eyes. All that was left was ice-cold heartlessness. "Ning Su, haven't you always wanted to settle things with me? Now, I will fulfill your wish." The young girl's voice was slightly hoarse, but each word was like knocking on ice. "Today, I will personally cut you down with my sword." Ning Su restrains the shock on his face and sneers. "Jun Mayan, have you forgotten the despair of not being able to fight back against me just now?" Swish! The seven absolutes sword slashed out like a bright galaxy in the night sky. "Now, I shall return the same despair to you." Ning Su only had time to hear this sentence. He felt as if his surroundings had suddenly sunk into a deathly silence. Yes, he was clearly still in the heavenly Phoenix mountain range. The night sky, the mountain range, and the shattered Hunter Disaster City were clearly still in front of him. However, he felt as if his five senses had been blocked. Then, he was thrown into a space that was isolated from the world. Ning Su was on full alert, looking around vigilantly. Swish! The sword light seemed to appear out of thin air, brushing past his neck. Ning Su dodged at speed as fast as lightning. The tip of the sword narrowly brushed past his neck, bringing with it a burning pain. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 31:20. Swish! Ning Su had no time to digest this sudden attack. The second sword strike came again without a sound. This time, Ning Su was not as lucky as before. His arm was slashed by a saber, and the wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. He wanted to use his spiritual energy to heal the wound on his arm. However, just as the spiritual power attached to the wound, it seemed to be sucked away by something, disappearing without a trace. What was this? Ning Su was both shocked and furious. What did Jun Mayan do? Why couldn't he control the spiritual power between heaven and earth? He couldn't even sense it. Even the spiritual power in his body would go out of control when it was released from his meridians. Swish, swish, swish. Countless sword lights whizzed over. Ning Su had nowhere to hide, and not long after, he was covered in cuts and bruises. Even his entire left hand was chopped off at the wrist. Blood dripped from his severed palm. Jun Mayan. Ning Su let out a heart-wrenching roar of rage. He no longer cared about the suppression of the rules of the heavenly Tao, and abruptly released all of his powers. The demon-slaying sword let out an ear-piercing hum and soared into the sky. Voila! It was as if a barrier had suddenly been torn apart. Ning Su finally sensed the surging spiritual power between heaven and earth again. A young girl in blood-red clothes stood not far from him with a sword in her hand. However, compared to his previously pale complexion, there was not a single trace of blood in it. The girl's body was so delicate and thin, as if she could collapse at any time. Very obviously, in order to kill him, Jun Mayan also paid a sufficient price. But how did she do it? Why did Mayan have the ability to defeat her in just a short moment? Rumble. The deafening sound of thunder came from the sky. Ning Su knew that it was because he had lifted the seal on his strength that surpassed the limits of the cultivation land. That was why he had incurred the wrath of the heavens. He only glanced at it casually. However, this one glance caused his entire body to freeze. There were no stars or moon tonight because the sky was overcast. But at some point in time, the sky had already been covered by a thick layer of clouds. When Ning Su raised his head, a purple-gold bolt of lightning split the entire cloud layer. It also illuminated the heavenly Phoenix mountain range as bright as day. This was not the heavenly punishment that he had attracted. Just unsealing this bit of power was not enough to attract such a vast divine thunder of punishment. Then who was the one who attracted this divine thunder? Ning Su asked himself, and then his gaze fell on the young girl opposite him. Jun Mayan, what did you do? He roared almost crazily. Do you think you can survive after attracting such a powerful divine thunder of heaven punishment? The 7 ultimate swords spun in the air. All the spiritual energy in the heavenly Phoenix mountain range converged towards the tip of her sword like dancing fireflies. There were more and more fireflies, and the light became more and more brilliant. Slowly, it gathered into the Milky Way galaxy. Ning Su's heart instantly suffocated. Cold sweat rolled down his forehead. At this moment, he feels that he's not fighting Mayan alone. The heavenly Phoenix mountain range, the cultivation continent, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, the seas, and the creatures of heaven and earth. At this moment, it has become Jun Mayan's fighting strength, a hand that wants to crush his life. Ning Su had always been arrogant, stubborn, and conceited. But at this moment, a true sense of powerlessness and despair welled up in the depths of his heart. His eyes were wide open, the whites of his eyes crimson. He slightly opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something. But in the end, he only spat out 3 words, Jun Mayan. Chapter 31:21. Rumble. The thunder in the sky is getting louder and louder. The purplish gold lightning exploded, as if it was going to split the entire sky. The people of the Xiaoyao sect, who were seriously injured and unconscious, opened their eyes under such strong light. What is this? Junior sister. Where's junior sister? Chu Moli sits in a wheelchair, looking up at the golden snake-like lightning in the sky and the increasingly blurry figure of the girl, his hands gripping the armrest. Junior sister, this is a warning, don't you know? Aren't you ready to stop? Third brother, what are you talking about? What's wrong with junior sister? Boom! In the sky, the 7 absolutes, sword trembles and whistles. The Milky Way sea of stars tumbles, moving mountains and draining seas, instantly turning into a giant beast with a bloody mouth, swallowing Ning Su whole. Jun Mayan, Ning Su, swear that I will never let you. Ning Su's gut-wrenching howl is annihilated between heaven and earth. Chu Moli closes his eyes with a pale face, muttering, Of course you know, but you never intend to stop. Rumble. The purple gold dragon that has been hovering in the air finally swoops down from the sky. Junior sister. Sixth sister. Mayan lowers her head and sees her fellow disciples rushing towards her. Using the last bit of her strength, she gently waves her hand at them. The spiritual power between heaven and earth seems to have a mind of its own. It immediately sets off a hurricane, sweeping the 6 people back to their original place. In the end, the heavenly thunder still falls and directly strikes Mayan, completely annihilating the girl's small figure. However, before Mayan can feel the pain, she feels that she is firmly protected. A muffled groan of pain resounds in her ears. The familiar voice makes Mayan suddenly open her eyes. Suzy, how can you be no? Chi Huang. You're Chi Huang. Nonsense. The youngster grimaces. If it's not this sage, who else can it be? This sage only has you as a stupid master. Don't tell me. Don't tell me I have to watch you die. Rumble. Another heavenly thunder falls, and Suzy spits out a mouthful of blood. Black air twines around him, but he still firmly protects Mayan in his arms. Mayan suddenly realizes something. That won't do, Chi Huang. Quickly returned to the Tian Mo-Chin space. Su Zi's body won't be able to take it, and you said that no one can know of your existence. The color of Su Zi's eyes flickered for a moment. Suddenly, the voice turned into the real Su Zi. Little sister, I'm fine. As long as I can save you, as long as I can let you live, I can do it. I will definitely persevere until all the divine lightning has passed. As soon as Ning Su appeared, a strange voice appeared in Su Zi's mind, asking him if he was willing to give up his body for him to use. In the past, when he was possessed, Su Zi was always in a state of drowsiness and did not hear Chi Huang's voice clearly. But in that instant, he immediately recognized it. That was little Missy's spiritual pet, that mysterious and powerful person who couldn't be seen by others, but had always been by little Missy's side. Su Zi wants to help Junmayan, but he knows that he's too weak. If he stays, he'll only be a burden to Mu Yan. There's no other use. Therefore, the moment he heard Chi Huang's voice, he agreed without hesitation. The divine lightning descends, burning his flesh and burning his bones. Even though Chi Huang has blocked most of the damage, how could it not hurt? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.